fortune. They know the secret to getting homeowners what they deserve from insurance companies. Call Jessica today, 571-1740. That's 571-1740. Online at thelatopteam.com.
Why do billion-dollar insurance companies regularly delay and deny valid claims? Because that's how they got to be billion-dollar insurance companies. If you've been injured, I'd like to help.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA filing number 16-7969.
WNXX, Jackson, KNXX, Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers, LA 21-12681. Offices in Baton Rouge.
Good morning. It is 7 a.m. on Thursday, December 7th. In Baton Rouge, expect clear skies with a high of 65. Coming up on OTB, Michael Cobble, Caroline Fenton, Big Deal, No Deal, and Chef Michael Johnson. You can follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at OTB_ESPN or watch the show on 104.5 ESPN YouTube channel. Hour 1 of OTB, live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, starts now.
Let we go. All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Jacob Hester and T-Bob Hebert. Yeah. Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob.
Hey, P, they said I got to come off the bench.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. Yo.
What's up, people? Welcome in to a Thursday edition of Off the Bench. Mario Jerez here on this side of the desk today. Grant Lanero on the audio board. Taylor Sharp getting us on YouTube. Taylor pretty much my co-host today. He's going to talk a lot on this microphone. T-Bob is in Disney World. I'm sure he's having a great time. Jake is on his way to Boston to cover Army versus Navy. I thought that game was in Philly every year. Apparently it's in Boston this year. So we hope those guys are enjoying their vacation. We make a lot of jokes, about suspensions and whatnot, but in all seriousness, those guys deserve a vacation after all the work they've been putting in this football season. So it'll be the three of us today and tomorrow. We'll have the whole game back on Monday when Jake and T-Bob are both done with their vacation/work vacation for Hester, I suppose. We have a fun show coming up, loaded up with some guests in the second hour. Michael Cobble, WBRZ, will come on at 8:15, toss some LSU versus Wisconsin. Then we will welcome Caroline Fenton onto the show in her normal spot. Coming up at 8:30. That'll be more of a general college football conversation. Look ahead to bowl season a little bit. Always looking forward to Caroline and talking to her. Like Grant told you, third hour, Big Deal, No Big Deal, Munchies with Chef Michael Johnson. Really looking forward to the show. Talk to me in the Bayou Ford chat. Always appreciate all the interaction. Before we get into the show, LSU versus Wisconsin, which is where we're going to open here. Let's do what we always do on this show. Go around the room, see how everybody's doing, exchange some pleasantries. Grant, appreciate you coming in. You always seem to pick up the slack for me whenever we need somebody to cover that job over there, being in the audio chair. You do look like you're moving a little slow this morning. You had a long night last night?
A little bit, but I'm always ready to come in on the short notice. I'm like, I'm not always in the rotation, but I'm like the Jose Alvarado. When we really need a role player, I'm jumping in first thing. I'm always there.
Hell yeah. Instant energy. I like it. Brian Burgess, Lars Corville, Matt W., all y'all in the chat already. Good morning to you guys. Taylor Sharp, good morning to you. How are you, my friend?
Good morning. Unlike Grant, I'm not hungover this morning. Doing pretty good. I'm excited to do this. Ready to make it happen. We'll see what magic we can do without Mr. T-Bob and Mr. Jacob Hester this morning.
Cool. Not too much magic, like Ryan Fitzpatrick and Kevin Hart in that commercial, which I've seen a billion times, but it's still really funny for some reason. Man, I kind of missed Ryan Fitzpatrick. NFL seemed to be more fun when he was around.
Is he a little cringe in that commercial?
Yeah, but that's part of what gives him his charm,
I guess.
I was at the Superdome in 2018, the first time he came out with all that stuff, I believe. Deshaun Jackson was on the team, I believe, and he let him borrow his chain. He had just whooped the Saints the year they won the 1 seed for whatever reason. So, shout out to Fitzmagic. All right, we will start the show here talking a little bit of LSU football. LSU facing off against Wisconsin in the ReliaQuest Bowl, and we haven't talked about this game too much this week, Taylor. There just seems to be other bigger things kind of going on in the world of college football, and even in LSU football's little world, with all the awards and contract extensions and things of that sort. But I want to talk about what LSU really has to gain in this game, if anything at all. Because the way I look at it, the first thing everybody's going to talk about going into this game is the quarterback situation. Will it be a going away party for Jaden Daniels, or will it be more of a passing of the torch to Garrett Nussmeier, unless the transfer comes in and wins the job? Even if Nussmeier does play well in the bowl game, that's definitely a possibility. But for the sake of this conversation, will it be Jaden Daniels? Will it be Garrett Nussmeier? We'll find out. Jaden Daniels has not made an announcement yet on whether or not he'll play in the bowl game. We can only speculate, but we would think it's going to be one of those two guys. And then does Matt House need a good showing here to keep his job? We know he got the contract extension last year. Mike Denbrock, the OC, just got a contract extension earlier this week. Does LSU have to play well on defense for Matt House to keep his job? That's something I'm looking at. And then for Brian Kelly, honestly, maybe I'm kind of overthinking things here, but I really want to see LSU have a good performance after a long layoff, right? Like with a lot of time to prepare. And give them props. They did what they were supposed to do against Purdue last year, but that Purdue team not only had players opting out, but their head coach was leaving. You had Drew Brees on the sideline as a position coach, right? That wasn't really like a bowl game to me. So this is Brian Kelly's first real bowl game for me at LSU. So those are kind of the things that I'm looking for going into this game. Taylor, what do you think LSU has to gain, if anything, in this matchup against Wisconsin? What are you kind of looking for in the next few weeks?
It all depends on if Jaden Daniels plays or not. There's a lot of people out there who are just under the assumption that he won't. What do I think? I don't know. I'm on the fence about it. I think there's pros and cons to it. The pro is, as a fan, you always want the best product. You always want to see your best players on the field. I get that. I'm all for that. I mentioned that in one of my old man takes the other day that I always like it. I don't like when players opt out of bowl games. But if Jaden Daniels opts out, this is a huge opportunity for Garrett Nussmeier. I think that if Jaden opts out, Garrett starts this game. Depending on his performance will depend on your transfer portal quarterback situation. We've talked about it a lot on this show. Are you going to go after a guy that's going to be a starter, that's going to compete for this job? Or if you like what you've seen from Nussmeier, if he plays really well in this bowl game, could you just go in there and get a guy who's a solid veteran backup so you don't have that youth and inexperience behind Garrett Nussmeier? I think this is a big opportunity for him. That's probably the first thing I'm going to be watching.
That's fair, and maybe LSU does like both. Maybe you go out and get a young guy like Garrett Nussmeier that doesn't have experience, and maybe you go get a veteran guy, kind of like Ole Miss added Walker Howard and Spencer Sanders, and Jackson Dart was still the guy going into this season, right? And I wanted to ask you specifically, because I know you pay attention to this stuff really hard, because you like Garrett Nussmeier. You're high on him, like a lot of LSU fans are. And last season, I felt like the game against Southern was referenced way too much. Like the 2 interceptions, he's a gunslinger. He's going to go in there. He's going to make plays. Unfortunately, he's going to throw interceptions too. But in the reps that you saw this year, I know I saw a little bit of growth. Like he's still going to stay true to that identity. He's going to be a gunslinger. He's going to take shots down the field. He does look a little bit more composed, and he looks a little bit better as far as maneuvering the pocket. Stuff that comes with experience, right? In the game against Alabama after Jaden Daniels took the big hit, against Army, against Missouri, against Moose State, and against Grambling, where he got a lot of reps in that game, right? Do you agree that Garrett Nussmeier looks a little bit more seasoned, although it's still kind of a small sample size this year?
I think he looks way more seasoned, and you're right. The Southern game last year gets talked about way too much. Mario, yes, he's a gunslinger, and a lot of people are like, yeah, well, when you're a gunslinger, you're going to turn the ball over. That's not necessarily the case. What was the score in that game? I mean, LSU's up 40 points. Garrett Nussmeier's out there. He's careless with the football. Should he be careless with the football up a lot? No, you shouldn't, but we got to understand that he's never actually prepared any in his college career to go into a game and be a starter. As much as he's played, we got to remember he's never actually started a football game. A lot of times in these games, he comes off the bench a little cold, right? In Alabama, he was thrown into the fire because of the injury of Jaden Daniels. I actually thought he threw the ball well. I mean, a lot of people are like, well, he didn't complete a lot of balls. Look, he had 2 drops there, including a crucial one on 3rd and long by Malik Neighbors. Neighbors catches that ball. It's a first down. That drive continues. I thought he did a good job of not putting the ball in harm's way. He seemed composed in a hostile environment against a top 25 defense. I think he's been a lot more composed this year, just from a pure quarterback standpoint.
So the raw stats are 17 out of 33 passing for Nussmeier this year, 196 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, which to me is encouraging, right? Again, somebody who threw interceptions, multiple interceptions with a lot less playing time the prior season. That shows a little bit of growth to me. And again, maybe I'm overthinking it, but in the games against Army, Alabama, like I said, I thought he looked a little bit more composed. And he went against Missouri, but that was for like a couple of snaps when Jaden Daniels was hurt. But speaking of Jaden Daniels, we've talked a lot about him on this show, and rightfully so. He's had a historic season. You make the argument, not really an argument, it's a fact, it's in the numbers. He had a better 2-year run at LSU than Joe Burrow did, just individually, like statistically, the numbers that he was putting up. And it's been a lot of fun for LSU fans, especially given the context. I thought Hester did a really good job bringing it down yesterday, right? Like imagine in 2014 when Anthony Jennings and Brandon Harris were duking it out for the starting quarterback spot. If someone told you that 10 years from now, LSU is going to have 2 Heisman-winning quarterbacks in a 5-year span, that would be crazy. We appreciate it. It's going to hopefully lay the foundation for future great quarterbacks at LSU, like we've talked about on the show. All of that being said, it is a little frustrating. I think there is something to be said for LSU kind of wasting these last 2 years from Jaden Daniels. I mean, they played in the Citrus Bowl last year. Now you're going to play in the ReliaQuest Bowl. And unfortunately, fair or unfair, I think that's going to affect Jaden Daniels' legacy a little bit. When you talk about the true greats in the history of this school, the Billy Cannons, the Joe Burrows, and the Jaden Daniels, because he deserves to be in there. Fair or unfair, that's going to kind of knock him down a peg, I think, when people are having that conversation. So it has been a lot of fun, but on the same token, it's really frustrating that he put up those numbers, and these last 2 years, this was still your postseason destination.
Yeah, it's one of the things we talk about. We discussed it earlier this week with Hester when he was up there hosting. He was saying, well, a lot of people, they're upset with LSU's bowl destination. I get it. Win more games, get a better bowl destination. It's as simple as that. And that kind of brings us into our next conversation. You mentioned earlier, does Matt House keep his job based on this game? That's been the big question mark all year long. This defense at one point was ranked 130th in the country out of 133 teams. That's not acceptable on any level of ball, especially at a place where you feel like you have enough talent to overcome some of that. But for whatever reason, it didn't. And when you look at Matt House, it's interesting. Last year, he had the 36th ranked defense. So he was actually really good his first year here at LSU. You thought he was going to take the next step. I think the big issue was the inexperience in the secondary, Mario. I'm not trying to give Matt House a pass on anything. I think that there's a lot of halftime adjustments he should have made that he didn't. We talked about the non-spy on Jalen Milroe. That was a big topic of conversation for a few weeks here. But it was kind of bottom of the barrel, and you're not really used to seeing that at LSU. I'd like to see, maybe what happens in this bowl game. Do they do some funky things? We'll see. There's a lot of people out there that believe that Matt House's job is already safe. I mean, we've heard that topic. Kelly has yet to make a statement one way or the other. He's saying, after the bowl game.
He's pretty on the fence based on what we heard yesterday.
Well, he was saying after the early sign-in period, which is coming up in about a week and a half, then he'll reevaluate the staff. I think that's the correct way to do it, but Matt House, he has a lot to prove in this game as well.
I think Kelly was frustrated specifically with Matt House after the Ole Miss game. I think that was the one time you could really say that was an embarrassing performance, and fair or unfair, that is on the DC. This is LSU. We do not give up 700 yards of offense in one football game. There's a lot that he did wrong. I agree with you. Schematically, he could have given his players probably a leg up, but just watching the game, and I'm not a coach, I'm not a scout, I watch a lot of football like you guys do. It seems to be more on the execution. Players are not as physical as they have been in prior years. Even the 2021 defense, in my opinion, brought a lot more to the table than the group that we saw last year, because like Taylor said, just more talent, more depth, in my opinion, especially when you talk about the secondary. And I give Kelly and House a lot of credit for last season. They went out and got some key guys on defense from the transfer portal that really helped them. When you talk about Bernard Converse and you talk about Gardner. But this year, that just did not come to fruition. And I worry a little bit about the development of the younger players. I know some of them are hitting the transfer portal. I saw LaTerrence Welsh's tweet the other day that he's not going to be at LSU any longer. that is a little bit concerning. But I agree with you, and I know a lot of people will not. A lot of people will probably scream at me in the chat because they're ready for Matt House to get that pink slip. But I think he's earned himself at least one more season based on what LSU did last year, based on having the ability to go in the transfer portal and maybe get some guys coming into this season. I do think his job is safe, but I guess we got to wait and see. And again, a good performance in this bowl game would definitely not be a bad thing. It definitely would not hurt Matt House.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. You know, I know Kelly's been kind of non-committal one way or the other. I personally don't know how I feel about it because part of me is like, well, you know, he was really good last year. Maybe it was just a talent thing, but also we talked about it, you know, the lack of adjustments, kind of doing the same thing over and over, playing that cover 4 almost every single play against Alabama. Some of that's inexcusable stuff. So while, yes, Kelly may think higher of him than most of the general public does, I think there's some issues they need to sort out as well. I'll be interested to see what happens after the bowl game. I'm glad you mentioned the corners that you brought in last season. They did a good job of that. Bernard Kahn versus Mekhi Garner. First off, Mekhi Garner going pro a year early really hurt this team. I think that a lot of people expected for him to come back, and I think if he could do it over again, he probably would come back. But you tried to get guys in the transfer portal. You brought in Deuce Chestnut, a veteran. You know, he's had some issues. He hasn't been with the team. But according to Brian Kelly, he's still in good standing. And then you bring in Denver Harris from Texas A&M, who, you know, had a little bit of issues as far as getting in trouble at Texas A&M. It seems like it kind of reared its ugly head here at times here this year. We don't quite know what's going on with those two guys, but for whatever reason, they are not with the team right now. You do have some young talent. I like Ashton Stamps. Javian Toviano has played really good the last 3 or 4 weeks. Jeremiah Hughes has got in there. So you do have a lot of young talent, but I think once again, you are going to have to dip into that transfer portal.
I like Toviano. A lot of people might not remember this play, but early on in the Alabama game, he took a lick and he made the tackle, but he caught the guy, kind of got knocked back a couple of feet. And I believe it was Bond, the Alabama receiver, kind of stood over him, and it was like a welcome to college football kind of moment. But after that play, he settled down, and he played pretty decent in that game against Alabama. So hopefully that's something good for LSU going forward. I like Murray 1025's comment in the chat. He says, watch Perkins play safety next year. Coaches don't know what to do with him. That's definitely something I guess they kind of had to figure out. Perkins hasn't had a bad season by any stretch of the imagination. He's been productive. And to his credit, he's gotten a lot better in coverage. Like the interception he had against Missouri, you could argue was a turning point for the season for LSU's defense. They played a lot better from that point out. But as an LSU fan, it is kind of frustrating to see you land Harold Perkins because originally he was not committed to come to LSU. Him flashing the way he has, him basically single-handedly winning you some of these games that he did last year, but it still feels like he's not having as big of an impact as he should, right? Like, I want him to have a Will Anderson type impact, right? And I know it's a little bit nuanced. They're trying to get him to play more in coverage, so he projects better in the NFL draft, but another thing for Matt House is he has one more year of Perkins, and I'd really love to see him take advantage of that and him kind of reach his final form, to make a Dragon Ball Z reference, as a junior next season.
Yeah, I think it goes back again to the struggle at DB. You know, last year you had those guys you could put out there, play the nickel, play the outside corner. Perkins had to be in a lot more coverage this year, and you're like, well, that's not a good spot for him. I get it, but you got to put your best guys in a position you think is best, and was that the correct decision? I don't know, but at the same time, like, your coverage skills were really bad this year across the board. He had to play there almost out of necessity. Now, should they have done a better job of moving him around? Absolutely, but I think if you get some guys in there, put them in better positions, better technique with the DBs. They were bad this year. They were sloppy, no doubt about that, but you get some better players in there in your secondary, and maybe you can put Perkins in there. Maybe he can rush the passer a little bit more, because when you blitzed him this year, he did a very good job. The problem is you had to have him in coverage, and when you go look at coverage grades, he was actually one of your best coverage defenders. It's just you had to play him there a little bit more out of necessity than they probably wanted to.
Yeah, and he's just such a good pass rusher. I saw some people talk about something similar with Zach Bond. He got his first sack of the season for the Saints this past Sunday, and they've been playing him in coverage, and he's been okay. He actually had the first interception of the season against C.J. Stroud. Remember, they made a big deal about him not throwing an interception for so long, but could he be better as a pass rusher? It looks like he could, because he had that bull rush against Sewell and the Lions the other day and looked really good. Like, maybe we should just put that guy's hand in the dirt every play, let him go after the quarterback. I kind of get that same feeling with Perkins, but I guess this is why Kelly and Matt House, at least for the time being, are making the big bucks, and they will make those decisions. So LSU getting ready to face off against Wisconsin in the ReliaQuest Bowl coming up in a couple of weeks. We'll talk a little bit more LSU football on the other side of this break. It looks like a division rival tried to poach one of LSU's coaches. We'll talk a little bit about that on the other side of this break. Mario Jerez, Grant Lanero, Taylor Sharp here with you until 10 a.m. This is Off the Bench on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria, and 1130 The Tiger.
That's a done deal, brother. CommunitySteelCo.com is the website. Go there today for all of your steel needs. If you're, trying to erect a metal building, if you're trying to get a metal roof, right? That's in vogue now. Well, they can help you with that. Just trim, right? You want to outfit your space with metal trim. They can certainly help you there. Whatever your steel needs are, they're going to be able to help you at Community Steel. And they're going to be able to help you right now, like today. You know why? Because they don't have to call someone in Houston. They don't have to call somebody in Dallas. They don't have to call somebody in Austin or Atlanta or wherever. They're right here in Gonzales, Louisiana. They've got their new website up, and it tells you that. It's one of the things we love about them. They want you to know that they're here. They're local. They can help you today. Like when you call the number, it's not 888, right? It's 225. That's the area code. 225-647-2020. Talk with Community Steel today. Go see them in Gonzales, Louisiana. Go see them online, CommunitySteelCo.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $20,000 off MSRP on new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. $20,000 off plus no payments for 90 days on new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
His name is King. He had a horse along the countryside. I saw him ride. One day they found him.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
This Sunday, as we bring you 3 different NFL games, we'll kick things off with our noon kickoff. It's the Jaguars and Browns. Immediately following that, it's Bills and Chiefs, and then our nightcap, the Eagles at Cowboys. Tune in to hear all three of those games here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You really are a heel. You're as cuddly as a cactus. You're as charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch. You're a bad banana with a greasy black peel.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria, and 1130 The Tiger.
Welcome back to the show. Mario Jerez filling in for T-Bob and Jake. T-Bob in Disney World. Jake off to cover Army versus Navy. Grant Lanero, Taylor Sharp here with you as well. Intro song very appropriate there for what happened yesterday. According to Football Scoop, Texas A&M, the Aggies, tried to hire away LSU offensive coordinator Mike Denbrock to the same position in College Station. Of course, they got denied. LSU ends up giving Denbrock that contract extension, which we discussed on this show yesterday. And the same article also reports that the offer A&M made to Denbrock would have made him the highest paid offensive coordinator in all of college football. As of now, Clemson's Garrett Riley and Washington's Ryan Grubb each make about $2 million a year. And it's kind of crazy that Denbrock has put himself in that league, kind of set that standard through 2 seasons at LSU. Got to give him a lot of credit. I wanted to ask you guys, and Grant, you can chime in as well if you want to, just how impressive you think Mike Denbrock has been. Coming in, there were expectations. He had done a good job at Cincinnati with Desmond Ridder, and obviously he had a lot of experience working with Brian Kelly. Although his tenure at Notre Dame was kind of up and down, he was a position coach. He was calling plays at other times a little bit murky, but he came over to the SEC. He got his guy in the portal as far as a quarterback, and he's been really good. Now making himself one of the highest paid offensive coordinators in all of the land. So how impressive, Taylor, do you think Mike Denbrock has been, and how much confidence do you have in him going forward, even though LSU's losing a few key pieces on offense there?
I have complete confidence in him. You should. I mean, this is the number one offense in the country by every single metric. I mean, points per game, yards per play, anything you want to look at, they're at the top of the list. And honestly, Mario, when Mike Denbrock first got hired, I know we chatted a little bit about this off air yesterday. I was like, it was, and I wasn't the only one. There were a lot of people that were kind of uninspired. Not that they didn't like Mike Denbrock. It just, it's kind of a tired hire. We've been there, done that. Everybody's trying to hire the hot up-and-comer. Brian Kelly nailed this hire. I mean, he obviously could not have done any better. The things that Mike Denbrock has done have been unbelievable in the short time he's been here. I have full confidence in him that regardless if it's Garrett Nussmeier or somebody out of the transfer portal next year, he's going to put him in the best position to succeed. And stuff like this is what happens when you have a really good coordinator. Other people are coming to look. They want to hire him on their staff, especially someone like Texas A&M, the little brother mindset they have, if you will. I mean, I remember when I was in grade school and, I got a new toy. I was in elementary. My little brother always wanted to play with that toy because Big Brother had it. That's kind of where we're at with Texas A&M right now. This is not the first time they've tried it. I mean, I don't know why Mike Denbrock would leave LSU to go to Texas A&M. That'd be like trading in your BMW for a Toyota Corolla. Yeah. But look, I'm happy he's here. He signed that 3-year extension, and our offense has a bright future with him, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it shows he enjoys working with Brian Kelly. Like, those guys know each other really well. They were cool back in the day at Grand Valley State in the 80s, and so far it's all rosy. One day it might not be all rosy, and BK addressed that too. He had to fire a guy that was in his wedding earlier in his career, and you know that he's willing to do that. But, Mike deserves a lot of credit, and I credit A&M as well for at least swinging the bat and trying to make that happen. Right? I mean, LSU does the same thing all the time. And falling back on Klein, not a bad second option. He's somebody who's done good work as a coordinator. We remember him being a really good quarterback as well. And A&M, I think, will be a factor. Maybe not right away, but Elko, I think, is the perfect man for that job. Not just because of, his abilities as a football coach, but because he has familiarity with that program. He was their defensive coordinator when Jimbo Fisher had his best season a couple of years ago. I think he's going to be able to go in there and not just have more success on the field, but kind of change the culture there, because they need to change the culture. Unfortunately for them, Mike Denbrock will not be a part of the new culture at A&M, and you're happy about that if you're an LSU fan. And I missed this in the first segment, but there were some more awards handed out yesterday. There's a graphic there in the first segment, Taylor, if you want to go back and grab it. LSU had several players named to the All-SEC coaches team. Of course, Jaden Daniels is in there, first team as a quarterback. Malik Neighbors makes the first team as a wide receiver, and Will Campbell makes the first team as an offensive lineman as well. As great as Will Campbell has been, and as much praise as I feel like he does get, it still feels like he's a little bit underrated in the grand scheme of things. I mean, LSU's offensive line was a freaking mess when Brian Kelly took this job over. There's no other way around it. He said in the media before, he said it publicly, that mission number one, the number one thing he wanted to accomplish first when he got to LSU was fixing the offensive line, shoring it up. And obviously LSU has a little bit of depth there. Hopefully some young guys are developing. But the guys that they have at tackle, the guys that you see on the graphic right there, Will Campbell, first team All-SEC. Emory Jones, who was not a starter immediately in his freshman year, but came in and kept that spot, second team All-SEC. And that's a big reason why Denbrock got the contract extension too, right? Having those offensive linemen. It reminds me a little bit of Sadiq Charles and Ingram a couple of years ago. 2017, LSU's O-line was a mess. They both got the start as freshmen. They were thrown in the fire, and then 3 years later, those guys were champions. I think you're kind of seeing the same thing, hopefully come to fruition with Campbell and Emory Jones. And shout out to Brian Thomas and Harold Perkins as well, making us second team All-SEC. But I think the story there, Taylor, with that graphic, at least what I take away from it, is the LSU O-line, and both of those guys in particular getting their just credit, because they've been a big part of LSU's success the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, they really have. I mean, what was it that came out the other day? Will Campbell played 370-something snaps this year, didn't allow a single sack. And you were talking about how underrated he is. I agree, but it's almost a good thing, right? I mean, there's 2 positions on the field where if your name's not called and people don't notice you, you're doing a good job. One is defensive back. If you don't see a defensive back the whole game, that's because they've locked down their man. They haven't thrown to his side. He's played a really good game. The other's offensive line. If you're not noticing an offensive lineman, it's because the defense is not getting pressure on that side where that particular offensive lineman is lined up. So while you don't hear a lot about him, it's probably a good thing.
Yeah, well said. And they got the credit there. So I'm happy that that both Emory Jones and Will Campbell got their credit. First team All-SEC for Campbell and second team All-SEC for Emory Jones. So we are very LSU football heavy in this first hour, as we should be, right? The season's going to end. We're going to miss it when it does. Just one more time for the purple and gold to go out there this year. That's coming up against Wisconsin in a couple of weeks. We will keep the LSU football conversation going in the next segment. Taylor has a couple of transfer portal targets for LSU at the wide receiver position coming into next season. We'll also talk about some of the guys that are returning and what they can do with some guys like Malik Neighbors going off to the NFL. So we'll keep the LSU football conversation going. We'll go more NFL and we'll go college with Michael and Caroline as well in the second hour, but we'll be more LSU football the majority of this hour. So we'll talk transfer portal on the other side of this break. Mario Jerez, Grant Linero, Taylor Sharp, all with you here till 10 a.m. This is Off the Bench on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hey, boat owners, check it out. It is the holiday season, which means it's time to buy yourself a gift by taking your boat to the next level with our friends at Front to Back Boat Service. Now is the perfect time to upgrade your boat and get it ready for that warmer weather, whether that's trolling motors, HD sonar, anything and everything. The Sherman family's been at it for 30 years, and Devin's going to take you through 30 more. Find them on Facebook at Front to Back Boat Service or go to fronttobackboatservice.com.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further. like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
It was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Hurry into your local Acura dealer for the Season of Performance event going on now.
Join me for a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show presented by Rouse's. Luke Johnson on the Saints, Chris Blair on the Tigers. We're talking Heisman. Hunt Palmer Show 1 to 3 weekdays, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Grandma got run over by a reindeer walking home from our house Christmas Eve. You can say there's no such thing as Santa, but as for me and Grandpa, we believe she'd been drinking too much eggnog.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria, and 1130 The Tiger.
Impromptu story time here. Mario Jerez filling in for T-Bob and Jake. They'll be back on Monday. Before we get into more LSU football talk, you were playing that song coming in, Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. And I remember it was either kindergarten or first grade. We went Christmas caroling to a retirement home. And we practiced like every song, you know, in the weeks leading up to our visit to the retirement home. And our favorite one was probably that one. We enjoyed singing it. And not until on the bus on the way to the retirement home did the teacher tell us, hey, we can't sing that today because some people at the retirement home might take offense about, you know, potentially being run over by a reindeer. I thought that was kind of BS. You could have told us that a little bit earlier. But yeah, that song made me remember that Christmas memory.
Also, like, how many people actually got ran over by a reindeer in that particular retirement home? I think they should have let you sing. I would have let you sing it. I would have let you lead with it, honestly.
I'm saying that's one of my favorite Christmas songs. And they have like a movie too, an animated movie that's pretty funny. I recommend you watch it with your kids and with your family. All grandmas out there, be careful for those reindeer. They can get you if you don't pay attention. All right, more LSU football talk. We've done a lot of that here in the first hour, rightfully so. LSU's season getting ready to wrap up against Wisconsin in the ReliaQuest Bowl, the artist once known as the Outback Bowl. It's the ReliaQuest Bowl now. They used to give out free promotions like free bloomin' onions and whatnot, or free coconut shrimp. if your team won the game. I don't think they're able to give out private security for free, which is what ReliaQuest is apparently. So that does kind of suck, but still hyped for the game.
Yeah, imagine what your swag bag would be, though. Don't forget the swag bags. I mean, what do you get, like spy glasses or something? I'm excited about that.
Yeah. So LSU and Wisconsin in a couple of weeks. We'll see what they get. No Cheez-Its this year, but LSU seems to be in pretty good shape as far as their wide receiver room goes next year, despite the fact that you're going to lose Malik Neighbors and others. And we have some guys that we think are returning that could be some key guys that Taylor listed here. Kyron Lacey, who to me has been kind of up and down at LSU. Was he the one that had the drop against Florida State the last play of the third quarter, or was that Brian Thomas?
That's his big thing.
That was Lacey.
He's struggled with drops since he's been here.
That's what I thought. He does a good job of working himself open. I think that he had good chemistry with the quarterbacks here, whether it was Nussmeier in there, whether it was Jaden Daniels. And he has really good fundamentals. He's a sound route runner. He's a good wide receiver. But to Taylor's point, it seems like in the biggest moments, he does kind of struggle with those drops. I think of a guy maybe like a Devery Henderson. I know they're a different mold wide receiver, but that's kind of the vibe that I get from Kyron Lacey. And then Chris Hilton's a guy that we talked about so much during his recruitment and starting with his freshman season. He was going to come in and make a big impact. Haven't seen much of that consistently. That might just be due to a numbers game. Maybe he just needs some more opportunity, but doesn't seem like he's really flashed. And then Aaron Anderson, I'd argue, has been a disappointment since he got to LSU. He was really hyped up by media, fans alike, to be this really dynamic guy, especially in the punt return game. But he hasn't even really returned that many punts. And I hate to say this, but it reminds me a little bit of Jonathan Giles, right? Somebody who came in as a transfer, was supposed to be really good. The difference was he was coming in from Alabama, so that made you feel really good about it. But for whatever reason, maybe he's not practicing well, maybe he hasn't been as dynamic, I don't know, but he just has not popped for whatever reason. And we all heard the soundbite. I believe we played it on this show from Nick Saban after the LSU-Alabama game. He went up to his face after the game and straight up told him, you'd be playing more here than you are there. That had to be kind of a low moment for Aaron Anderson, but hopefully he stays and he pops off a little bit more next season. And then you have the younger guys, the Jaylen Brown, not the Jaylen Brown from the Celtics, and Shelton Sampson, who had a whole movement to get him at LSU, whatever the hashtag was, 5 stay home or whatever it was. So the young guys, you see the potential. Some of them have already given you some production. We'll see if LSU is able to keep all those guys, and we'll see if some of them at least are able to step up a little bit more next season.
Yeah. The question LSU is going to have to ask in this offseason is, can Kyron Lacey be the number one receiver? If he controls his drops, I think he can, because we've talked about it. After the catch, he might be the most dynamic receiver you have. When he gets his hands on the football, his ability to turn upfield is excellent. He has good speed. He's 6'3". He's 210. He runs good routes. He's got it a little bit under control more the last couple weeks. You mentioned the big drop against Florida State. After that, Chris Hilton kind of beat him out for the number 3 job. Hilton goes down. Then what happens? Kyron Lacey takes over that role, and you really haven't seen Chris Hilton since then. So he's been a lot better. I certainly think he has the ability to be a number one receiver. The drops are an issue, but if you can get that under control, he certainly has the talent. I feel really good about Chris Hilton as well. I thought he looked good in his time on the field. So, whether Aaron Anderson works out or not, we'll see. Jaylen Brown's talented. Shelton Sampson's talented. They're both 5 stars that were freshmen a year ago. But, Mario, there are some guys in the transfer portal, and I know that Brian Kelly says he kind of wants to limit the number of transfers he takes this year. I think he said he wants to cap it somewhere under the 10 range. So he doesn't want to go over 10, and that's fine. LSU actually offered a transfer portal wide receiver yesterday. It was Xavier Thomas, who is transferring over from Mississippi State. He has an offer from LSU and an offer from Auburn. But most people right now think that he will make his way to Baton Rouge. When you look at him, he's a guy whose numbers don't necessarily jump off the table at you, but Mississippi State's offense was really bad last year, right? I mean, his freshman year, he only got in 2 games back in 2022, so we can throw that one out the window. I mean, he had 2 catches for 4 yards as a freshman. This past year, 40 receptions, just over 500 yards. He also had a touchdown, average over 12 yards per catch. So he was a solid possession receiver, putting him in a better offense with a better quarterback.
Yeah.
I think Denbrock and Nussmeier is an upgrade over Will Rogers and whatever you have. So he's a guy that, he flashed a little bit at Mississippi State. If you could put him in a better offense, he can make some plays for you.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. In that offense, those stats do pop off. Like, they don't sound great in a vacuum, but given what happened in Mississippi State, those are some pretty impressive numbers.
Yeah, and there are some guys that, talking about your SEC brethrens, that look like they're going to get a little bit better out of the transfer portal. For whatever reason, LSU did not go after these receivers. A lot of people wanted them. I mean, obviously the big name is Will Shepherd, the transfer from Vanderbilt. He's been really solid for about 3 years there up in Nashville. He's originally from Mandeville, Louisiana. He's crystal balled right now to go to Mississippi State. He has an offer in hand from them. As far as I know, LSU has not given him an official offer yet for whatever reason. Maybe they just like Xavier Thomas better. Maybe he fits into their system. Also, Colin Lacey. He's a transfer from South Alabama, so he would be moving up slightly a level of competition. But Mario, I mean, the guy's numbers have been phenomenal the last 2 years. Over 2,000 yards receiving, 2022 and 2023 combined. This past season, 1,300 yards, 7 touchdowns. He's been really good at South Alabama. Looks like he's headed to College Station as we speak. Again, he's a guy that LSU reached out to a ton, but there are a couple big names that we could still look at. Bo Collins, you know that name from Clemson.
Yeah.
He's a guy that, he didn't make a ton of huge plays, but not unlike Mississippi State, their offense was kind of bad this year. It sputtered at times. Outside of Will Shipley, they didn't have a ton to work with. He had 500 yards receiving this year. He has 11 touchdowns, though, since his time at Clemson in 3 seasons. So he's a guy that has a nose for the end zone. And another guy out there is Julian Fleming. A lot of people know that name. He's an Ohio State transfer. His numbers were a little bit down this year, but he had a drop-off in quarterback play from C.J. Stroud to Kyle McCord. 2 years ago in 2022, that was kind of his big year. 500 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns, over 15 yards per catch. So he's a big play receiver. You could come in. He could play outside. He could play in the slot. He's been really good, a really versatile guy. So if Kelly wants to dip into the transfer portal, he's got to decide what he thinks of these young guys. A Jaylen Brown, a Shelton Sampson, that's going to be the key to this. I think Kyron Lacey and Chris Hilton have a role on this team, regardless of who you bring in. Also, getting Lacey back is key. I don't think it's a guarantee he comes back. I definitely think he should. But if you get those 2 guys back, you see what you have in your younger guys. That'll depend on what they do in the portal. Obviously, Xavier Thomas looks like he may make his way to Baton Rouge, but you could add 1 or 2 more receivers out there in the portal as well.
Yeah, good breakdown there. And Jason Bourgeois brings up a good point in the Bayou 4 chat as well. We can't forget about Mason Taylor. For whatever reason, he was not as productive this year. Not that he played bad by any stretch of the imagination, but LSU just spread the ball out a little bit more. It did not find Mason Taylor as much this season, but he's definitely a factor. We know what he can do as a receiving tight end. And I guess I will ask you this. Do you think that Jay Johnson draws any interest from LSU? I saw that he put his name in the transfer portal yesterday, the Texas A&M tight end who was originally committed to LSU when his older brother Max was with the Tigers, but obviously he went to A&M and Jake followed him. I know Max is heading to North Carolina. Do you think it's as simple this time around and Jake just follows his brother, or teams like LSU might have an opportunity to maybe bring Jay Johnson in?
If this was a year ago, I would have said absolutely, because if you go back and look at the kid's tape, he did really good things at Texas A&M. He's still one of the best prospects to ever come out of high school at the tight end position. I don't think they do, though. I still think there may be a little bit of bad blood with them and Max Johnson. Also, you're loaded at the tight end positions. You don't need Jake Johnson to come in here. I mean, you just had Jackson McGowan, who was a highly recruited transfer, our player out of high school last year. He's in the transfer portal because he didn't get on the field enough at LSU. You got Mason Taylor. You got Kamorian Pimpton. Mac Markway had a lot of good moments this year, blocking and receiving. He caught a big-time touchdown pass late in the season. Also, Trey'Dez Green from Zachary, the big 6'8", 6'7" tight end. He's committed to you. He's coming in next year as well. I don't think you need Jake Johnson. I mean, again, Kelly talks about how he wants to limit the number of transfers, build his team from the high school ranks. I think you're better served elsewhere at bigger positions of need.
Fair enough. All right, keep it in tradition with this show. We went long, way too long there. We'll come back and do a shorter segment to wrap up the hour. We'll give you a little Thursday night football preview for tonight. Steelers versus Patriots. That game would have had a lot more juice a couple of years ago, but we'll still talk about it. That's coming up on the other side. This is OTB 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Off the bench with Hester and T-Bob.
All right, go to KTZBlinds.com, K2ZBlinds.com. That's KTOZBlinds.com. I told you yesterday I am incredibly excited. I'm about to have My backyard is about to get that upgrade that I'm talking about, right? We're about to get our screen that's going to help us block out the sun, block out the bugs, change kind of our space depending on what we want. Like if we want more shade, if we want to open it up, it's just a press of one single button and that's going to happen. And for us, right, well, Brandon came out and I just assumed you were going to give us a shade to keep the bugs out. It was going to be pretty thin. There was going to be one color to choose from, probably going to be a black screen. When he came in, and it was like 5 minutes, by the way, he knew exactly what we needed. Said, no, the sun sets here. If you want to block out that sun, you're going to need this screen, and you're going to need this one in this area, right? And he measured it, no time at all. And also, I got to choose what color. Had no idea there was going to be multiple options. Had them come out today. Go to the website, k2zblinds.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, boat owners, check it out. It is the holiday season, which means it's time to buy yourself a gift by taking your boat to the next level with our friends at Front to Back Boat Service. Now is the perfect time to upgrade your boat and get it ready for that warmer weather, whether that's trolling motors, HD sonar, anything and everything. The Sherman family's been at it for 30 years, and Devin's going to take you through 30 more. Find them on Facebook at Front to Back Boat Service or go to fronttobackboatservice.com.
I've been doing business with Loomis for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today.
The Dome. It's state championship week in high school football, and we get things started at 6 with Louisiana Prep Preview presented by Brock. And at 7, it's the select Division I state championship game between the Catholic High Bears and Acadiana Wrecking Rams. All right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria, and 1130 The Tiger.
Wrapping up hour number 1 here on a Thursday edition of OTB. T-Bob and Hester both out till Monday, so Mario, Grant, and Taylor here with you today and tomorrow. We'll talk for a minute here about the Thursday night football matchup. For tonight, the Patriots are visiting the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like we said a few years ago, this matchup would have had a lot more juice. The Patriots are 2-10. They are struggling right now. The Steelers have not had the best season statistically, especially on offense, but somehow here they sit with a winning record, 7-5 coming into this one. Pittsburgh, a 6-point favorite. I'd probably lay the 6 points and take the Steelers here. The Patriots are just struggling, man. And for whatever reason, I feel like Mitch Trubisky is really hungry to get back out there on the field. We know Kenny Pickett went down with that ankle injury. It will be Mitch for the Steelers tonight. I know T-Bob's pumped. He's probably going to watch from Disney World. So Patriots and Steelers tonight, Taylor. Will you be watching?
Yeah, I can't promise I won't doze off at some point in the game. It just depends. Mario, what is the lowest over-under total you've ever seen in an NFL game?
Probably like 30 around there.
It's 30.5 tonight.
My goodness.
Steelers, Patriots, and I'm tempted to take that under. I probably won't do it because the NFL is really wonky, but look, you can complain and say, oh, Mitch Trubisky's playing. Mitch Trubisky might be better than any quarterback on the New England Patriots roster right now. I mean, he came in last week in relief of Kenny Pickett, who went down with an injury, and he actually played okay, for the most part. You still got Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. They're solid running backs. Their biggest issue is their offensive line can't block for them long enough, but I trust Mike Tomlin at this point more than I do Bill Belichick, and I never thought I would say that, but yeah, I'm going to pick the Steelers because I think they got the coaching advantage right now because Belichick has a lot of things to figure out, and I still think they have the QB advantage.
All right. Yeah, I'm going with the Steelers, too. I think Steelers win and they cover in this one against the Patriots. So that'll do it for us pretty much here in hour number 1. We will wrap up in about 30 seconds. Coming up in hour number 2, we'll talk to Caroline Fenton of 102.5 The Game at 8:30. Before that, we'll talk to Michael Cobble of WBRZ at 8:15. We'll lead off the hour talking Saints. I know Saints are kind of depressing right now. A lot of you would maybe want to skip that segment, but we're in the season. These are important times. Even during the bad times, we still had to cover the team and talk about how we can maybe get back to the good times. So we'll do that to kick off the hour. Mario Jerez, Grant Lanero, Taylor Sharp here with you, OTB, ESPN Baton Rouge.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob.
Go to RejuveMeMedical.com, RejuveMeMedical.com. You can call them at 855-660-1027. You can text them at 225-442-0646. You can get the consultation set up right there on the homepage of RejuveMeMedical.com. One of the things we tell you about, go to the list of conditions they can treat for you. Fatigue and insomnia, right? Mood and memory problems. No matter what it is you've got going on. Maybe you know something is going on, but you don't know what that is, and that's why Rejuve Me is there. They are there to get to the bottom of whatever that issue might be. So go ahead and get that consultation set up. Remember, they've got locations in Baton Rouge, Houma, Metairie, Prairieville, Shreveport, Slidell. They are all over the state of Louisiana. So go ahead, get that done today. Figure out why you're not feeling like yourself, right? Go get the blood work done. You're in, you're out. We've told you too many stories of people. It's an easy process. And then they call you. They tell you what plan they're going to get you on, but you can't get that plan going unless you visit them at RejuveMeMedical.com.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, boat owners, check it out. It is the holiday season, which means it's time to buy yourself a gift by taking your boat to the next level with our friends at Front to Back Boat Service. Now is the perfect time to upgrade your boat and get it ready for that warmer weather, whether that's trolling motors, HD sonar, anything and everything. The Sherman family's been at it for 30 years, and Devin's going to take you through 30 more. Find them on Facebook at Front to Back Boat Service or go to fronttobackboatservice.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
I've been doing business with Loomis for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206.
Good morning. It is 8 a.m. on Thursday, December 7th. In Baton Rouge, you can expect clear skies with a high of 65. Coming up this hour, Michael Cobble and Caroline Fenton. More in the third hour. You can follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at OTB_ESPN or watch on the 104.5 ESPN YouTube channel. Hour number 2 of OTB, live from the Mercedes-Benz in Baton Rouge studio, starting now.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Jacob Hester and T-Bob Hebert.
Yeah.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob.
Hey, they said I gotta come off the bench.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. Yo.
Good morning, everybody. This is a Thursday edition of Off the Bench. Mario Jerez filling in for T-Bob and Hester. T-Bob in Disney World. Jake off to Army versus Navy. Grant Lanero on the audio board, holding it down in my usual spot. Taylor Sharp getting us on YouTube. Pretty much my co-host here today as well. A fun show coming up, especially here in the second hour. We will have a couple of guests. Michael Cobble of WBRZ will join us at 8:15, talk some LSU football. Then Caroline Fenton will join the show at 8:30. That'll be more general SEC, the rest of the college football world, which she covers from over there in Nashville. Big deal, no big deal, and Munchies with Chef Michael Johnson coming up in the third hour as well. Wanted to lead this hour talking some Saints, preview the game against the Panthers this Sunday. But before we do, let's hear real quick a message from our friends over at Skull Axe Throwing.
Remember, this segment's brought to you by Skull Axe Throwing. Go see them off of Lee, right next to Mike Anderson's. Go to their website. Go ahead. Remember, you can book this 7 days a week. Go to gcaxe.com, and you can check out the menu, right? You can check out all the different things that they offer over at Skull. You can book now as well. So if you want to go ahead and book in the future, make sure that you get that stall ready and available to you, right? No matter if you got guys night, girls night, date night, whatever it might be, go try them out. Skull Axe Throwing, again. Go to the website, book that appointment. It's right off of Lee next to Mike Anderson's, gcaxe.com.
Thank you, Jake. A couple of people in the chat are saying that there's some nasty traffic out there. Apparently, there was a car fire near Seagan Lane. So if you're driving right now, if you're near that area, please be careful. Hate traffic, man, especially here in Baton Rouge. Stuff gets really bad really quick. So hopefully that's not too bad of an issue there. So
I hate when when I used to do morning traffic here, the number of cars that just spontaneously combust combined with the number of 18-wheelers that just randomly turn over. It's amazing to me. It's just I'm befuddled at how these things happen. It blows my mind. I'm not claiming that I'm world's best driver or anything, but some of the things out there that happened, I look at it and I'm like, how did you get in this situation?
No, I'm with you. Maybe we could bring up the picture later, but I've been working here from that second floor studio, probably the same place where you did morning traffic, and I've seen cars like flipped over on the bushes in front of our work, like on Government
Completely
Street.
untouched. Nothing else wrong with it. It's just on its hood.
Yeah.
How did you get there?
Like, so many questions. But either way, if you're out there, if you're near Seagan Lane, be careful. Apparently, it is pretty nasty out there. Speaking of pretty nasty, speaking of things going bad, New Orleans Saints have another game this Sunday, and it's against the Carolina Panthers, a team that's 1-10, a team that already fired its head coach in his first season. That's a separate conversation, what's happening with David Tepper over there. But the point I'm getting to is y'all know, most of the audience knows that I do play-by-play in Spanish for the Saints every Sunday, away and home. And the first few years I was doing it, since 2019, it was really easy to get motivated, right? And I'm always motivated. NFL games, it's a privilege, it's an honor. I do my best on the microphone. I give it my heart and soul 100% every time. That being said, I got the job in 2019, and the Saints were contenders, right? Drew Brees, Sean Payton. You were flirting with the 1 seed in the NFC. You were constantly winning the division. The last 3 seasons have not been as good. They have not been as fun. And when stuff is going bad so consistently, like week to week, you see the same thing. You see the struggles on offense. You see the team struggle with cohesion. You see them start slow out of the gates on defense. Eventually, you think this is never going to get better. And a lot of fans are already there. And even as a broadcaster, this is one of the games where I had to kind of create my own juice. Taylor, how often have we heard Big Fave and Jake and T-Bob and all these guys that played for LSU talk about the games against, Western Kentucky and Chattanooga, where it can be kind of tough to get motivated. Eventually you do get there, but you had to create your own juice, right? I'm having to kind of create my own juice for this matchup against the Panthers on Sunday. I think the Superdome is going to be kind of sleepy. There were not a lot of empty seats this past Sunday against Detroit, but it's because there were a lot of Lions fans there. I don't think there will be a lot of Panthers fans there, and I think we're going to see a good amount of empty seats on Sunday, which will, make it harder for me to get up, will probably make it harder for the players to get some juice on the field as well, so that's not good. And my question to the audience, our Citizens Bank poll of the day for today, is going to be, how many of you want the Saints to lose this game? Because if you win as a Saints fan, it's not really going to do anything for you, right? Like, you have the Giants coming up. Hopefully you're able to string together a couple of wins, but it still kind of feels like fool's gold. It still kind of feels like false hope, right? So I think a lot of Saints fans, to the point where, as much as it kills them, some people pay for season tickets, their hard-earned money. They almost prefer that the team lose on Sunday, just so you can maybe rip off the Band-Aid and say, all right, Mickey Loomis, all right, organization, we know that you are trying to stick by Dennis Allen. We're trying to be positive here, but this is going too far off the rails. They cannot lose to a 1-10 Panthers team in the Superdome and not make any changes after that. At least that's how I feel. So I feel like a lot of the Who Dat Nation wants the Saints to lose this game. Taylor, do you think that's dumb, or do you think a lot of Saints fans should maybe want the Panthers to win on Sunday and have this Band-Aid ripped off?
I can see how someone would get there.
And draft positioning, that's a thing too.
I'm not there, and it's because of the division the Saints play in. I get it. You're 5-7 on the year. You haven't looked good. You play in the worst division in all of football. There's a chance that you could actually still win that division. And I'm actually not going to have to create my own juice on Sunday, which is weird to say because I'm not a diehard Saints fan anyways, but I'm looking forward to seeing this team win. I think they have a really good opportunity to do so. We haven't seen a win in a few weeks. There's a chance you can get one here against the Panthers. You should get one against the Panthers. It's not guaranteed, but it could happen. Also, you beat the Panthers on Sunday. Next week, you turn around and you beat the Giants. Those are 2 very winnable games. You're right back at 7-7. Then all you have to do is beat Rams, Buccaneers, and Falcons. You win 2 of those next 3. You're finished the season 9-8. You have a winning record, and you have a chance of winning the NFC South. So any other season, any other division, yeah, I'd be with it. It'd be like, look, I'd rather them lose. I'd rather them just get a higher draft position. But they're still very much in the thick of things here in the NFC South to get in the playoffs. So, no, I actually don't want them to lose.
That's fair. It's just, that's been kind of the theme all season. The schedule is supposed to be easy. We got Houston. That's going to be an easy win. We got Chicago. We're going to cover in that game. By the way, the Saints are 0-6 against the spread, I believe, or whatever it is, 0-4 against the spread in games in the Superdome this year. They are not profitable at all. The dome field advantage is just completely gone. And like I said, yeah, it's still set up for them to maybe do it, but even if they are able to win those games, like I said, it still feels like fool's gold. And it could be a situation where that last game against Atlanta determines the division. That would be really exciting. Maybe I'm sleeping on Tampa Bay a little bit. The Saints still had to go there. They already lost to them in the Superdome. But even so, man, even if they are able to string together some wins, it still feels like, based on what we've seen the first 12 games, stuff is not going to get better. And I feel like Mickey Loomis this year has been talking to the press a little bit more than he usually does. He comes on every now and then, gives kind of State of the Union thing, but people are really pissed pretty much week to week that follow the Saints, and it seems like he has to do a lot of damage control. This is I think the third time that he's done one of these press conferences this season. And we got a couple of sound bites from Mickey Loomis here from the Saints Hour with Mike Hoss, which airs on a radio station down there in NOLA. I believe we air it up here as well on a certain weeknight. But Mickey Loomis yesterday addressed the media, and we can start with Loomis 1 here. A lot of people are saying that the Saints have quit on Dennis Allen. They've quit on this season. This is what Mickey Loomis had to say about that assumption.
Yeah, well, that's just unsophisticated and lazy journalism, to be honest with you.
Right.
That's someone that either didn't watch the game or doesn't understand the game, and probably a lot of both.
So I actually kind of agree with that. I don't think that the Saints have necessarily given up. They showed some fight. We talked about it yesterday. They got down early. The defense made adjustments like they always do, and they got back in the game. You do got to give them a little bit of credit for that. So that's not the terminology I would use, that they've given up on Dennis Allen. They've given up on the season, but it's just as bad because the Saints are getting off the bad starts week after week, game after game, and it's all on the coaching staff. It's not that the players are not motivated. They want to go out there and do well for the coach, but the coaches are putting them in bad positions week after week. I thought Underhill broke it down really good when he came on here on Tuesday. At the start of games, the Saints are getting out-coached. They're getting out-schemed, and it's been very, very consistent. And, of course, they're going to show fight, but I don't give them much credit for that. They're making a lot of money. These are pro players. They're not just going to lay down and die, right? But you can't put yourself in these big holes week after week, especially against good teams. This game against the Lions did not feel just like the game against the Jaguars. You were going up against a good quarterback. You got punched in the mouth early, and you did some good things towards the end, but it was too late. You dug yourself too big of a hole. So I don't think they're necessarily giving up on Dennis Allen, but week to week, they're getting off the bad starts. And when that's happening so consistently, it's definitely on the coaching staff.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not a matter of the Saints giving up. They didn't give up. A team that gives up would have lost that game to the Lions 35-0. That's what would have happened if the Saints gave up. Like you mentioned, they're digging themselves in a big hole, but they got out of it. I mean, they had a chance to potentially win that game in the fourth quarter. I mean, you only lose the game by 5 points total to a really good 9-3 now Detroit Lions football team. I don't think they've given up on here at all. So I actually do agree with Mickey Loomis on that. The issue is, like you mentioned, the preparation, the getting off to the slow starts. You cannot dig yourself into a 21-0 hole, especially when you're not the better team and you're playing a team that is playoff bound. If you're not the better team and you dig yourself into a 21-0 hole, it's very hard to win. We talked about it last time. It was like, why did the Saints lose to the Falcons? Well, because they dug themselves in a hole and they can't stop the running game. It was the same thing here. If you dig yourself into a hole and you keep committing the same mental errors and you continue to not be able to stop the run, you can't win. But I will give them credit for fighting back in that football game. I was at Walk-Ons watching the game with a buddy of mine. It got to be 21-0. I left, and he did as well. And then I got home, and I'm like, this game's 40-0. I turn it on, and the Saints are down by 5. And I was like, okay, like they get a shot to win this game. So had a little bit of an exciting finish. Yeah, I don't think they've quit on the coaching staff, though. I think that's very far-fetched.
Well said. Let's skip ahead to Loomis 3 here if we can, Grant. He talked about the Superdome, the environment on Sunday being disappointing because there was so much blue there, so many Lions fans. This is what Mickey Loomis had to say about that.
You know, our stadium sold out on a season basis. That's disappointing to have, that many tickets that are resold and, given to visiting fans. But look, I understand it. I mean, I understand the economics of it. I understand that season tickets are expensive and, you can't go to every game. And so, pick and choose to sell some. But I was a little caught off guard by the volume, as you said, in the lower bowl. That was unusual. And look, I understand it, but that doesn't mean I have to like it.
Yeah, so I know I've worked in that building before as a radio intern. I know people that sell tickets that work in sales, and I know fair or unfair, they kind of get in trouble whenever something like that happens. Like the Saints as an organization make an effort to not, obviously visiting fans are going to come, but it should never be a situation where it's that concentrated. Like my whole view, because I was under the press box, was Detroit Lions fans. Maybe my side, what was on top of me, was some black and gold, but it was literally all blue. And honestly, I commend Lions fans. Like, I have no beef with Saints fans selling their tickets. Again, given what we've seen, consistently inconsistent is the word that Alvin Kamara used, and I think that's a great way to put it. And for Lions fans, they had themselves a hell of a weekend. Right now, it's pretty much Christmas time, maybe like a very, very early spring break, but a lot of people take vacations at this time, right, Taylor? And whenever I lead the Superdome, it's normally a nightmare. They need way more people directing traffic. And this Sunday against Detroit, I was like, I'm going to take an alternate route today. I don't really know where I'm going, but I hate going, right onto the interstate because it's such a cluster F, for lack of a better term. But there was like no traffic on Sunday, and I was surprised. I got right on the interstate. I got home pretty quickly, and I was like, that's really weird. This was a full stadium. And then on the way home, it hit me like, oh my God, it was that way because most of the people at the game today were Detroit fans that actually came in from Detroit, stayed in a hotel downtown, and then walked to the game. They were walking out of the Superdome, getting ready to go downtown and party it up. So Lions fans, they showed up and they showed out. I give them a lot of credit. But to Mickey Loomis's point, a little humiliating if you are a New Orleans Saints fan.
Yeah, first off, who knew the Lions had that many fans? But yeah, shout out to them for showing up. We were talking about it before the show. Like, think about how disheartening it was for basically everyone's entire lifetime to be a Detroit Lions fan. I mean, this wasn't a team that just missed out on the playoffs. This was a team that was winning 5 games a year with Matthew Stafford and Calvin Johnson. That should never be the case. So I get it, though. I mean, I understand their fan base isn't huge, but they're very passionate and they're very proud of where their team is because they haven't had that kind of success. I also understand where Saints fans are coming from. Like you said, you hate to see the empty seats, but it's like, what are you going for? You mentioned it. Traffic's kind of a pain in the butt. Everything's such a hassle. Tickets are expensive. I mean, people when they go, they want to enjoy the experience. The Saints offense right now is not an enjoyable experience. I mean, what are you going for at the end of the day? So I don't blame anyone for not showing up. And I got to be honest, Loomis is like, yeah, I was a little surprised, and I don't think he's seen the last of it. I mean, if this continues and you happen to lose to the Carolina Panthers this weekend, God forbid, it's going to get a whole lot worse.
Yeah, I understand Loomis has to be positive. He has to keep the good vibes. Like, the fans' job is to be upset. Your job is to keep, a happy face and try to at least keep the good vibes. But that being said, there seems to be, him being naive a little bit sprinkled in there. And hopefully we don't see much more of these. But again, it's been a lot of damage control for Mickey Loomis this season, and rightfully so. Saints 5-7, struggling to keep their playoff hopes alive. We'll see what happens this Sunday against Carolina. We'll switch the conversation back over towards college football. And on the other side of this break, Michael Cobble of WBRZ will join the show. We'll ask him about the bowl game. We'll ask him about the Final Four and college football because we haven't heard his take on that yet. I know that's kind of the hot topic conversation this week, so stay tuned for all of that. This is OTB on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria, and 1130 The Tiger.
All right, go to centralplumbing.org.
Central Plumbing. Opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $20,000 off MSRP on new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. $20,000 off plus no payments for 90 days on new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Hey, boat owners, check it out. It is the holiday season, which means it's time to buy yourself a gift by taking your boat to the next level with our friends at Front to Back Boat Service. Now is the perfect time to upgrade your boat and get it ready for that warmer weather, whether that's trolling motors, HD sonar, anything and everything. The Sherman family's been at it for 30 years, and Devin's going to take you through 30 more. Find them on Facebook at Front to Back Boat Service or go to fronttobackboatservice.com.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance shops, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. And I think we're rocking and rolling.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Loomis for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to
Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. I'm Wheels Up to New York City. Musa will drive you home. He'll have Mike Triplett and the latest in the transfer portal, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria, and 1130 The Tiger.
Back to the show. This is hour number 2 of Off the Bench. Mario Jerez here filling in for T-Bob and Hester. Very excited to welcome on our first guest onto the program. He is Michael Cobble of WBRZ. You could follow him on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at Cobble. Appreciate your header there, Michael. Kent Lowe and the billboard there, the legendary men's basketball SID here at LSU. Thanks for the time, man. How you doing?
You know the vibe.
Hell yeah. I missed the hashtag. Michael, we haven't talked to you since the final rankings came out for college football. We've asked all our guests kind of what they thought about that. Definitely don't want to assume your opinion. Most people around these parts are upset that it was Alabama and not Florida State, despite the fact the Seminoles were undefeated and conference champions. What do you make of the Final Four?
Yeah, I just think it's a bunch of crap that they decided to wait until the last time to actually, adhere to the things that we've always tried to get them to adhere to in the past. And it seems like in the past they've always gone with resume or, the season's long worth of, work that the teams have done And when it comes time to try to squeeze an SEC team in, it felt like that's exactly what they were trying to do. I understand the point that they're making, and I actually agree that Alabama or even Georgia is one of the better teams and more deserving of Florida State at this time. But if you lay out the criteria and everyone knows it and this is what you aspire to do, and then you move the goalpost at the last minute, I think that's a bunch of crap, especially in college athletics. So part of me would have loved to have them leave the SEC out, especially because it means Alabama or Georgia would be left out. The other part of me understands that you're trying to get the best teams. But if that's the case, then I'm not sure that, Georgia isn't deserving to be in there as well. So I think Florida State got screwed at the end of it all.
Well said, my friend. Just a lot of subjectivity in there, but, we're definitely on the same page. If you heard the promo there, you know that our guy Matt Moscona is off to New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. Will you be making the trip as well?
Yeah, fixing to leave here after I get done with y'all. So heading down to New Orleans to fly out as well. Talked to Matt yesterday, and we're going to try to link up while we're up there. So it's a good time. I went for the Joe Burrow trip back in 2019, and it was a really cool deal. So excited to do it again.
Good deal. I know the airport in New Orleans is so much nicer these days. It was in a bad spot the last few years. So enjoy your travels there. Do you think the Heisman's already in the bag for Jayden Daniels and this is a formality, or is there any outside chance that somebody else takes it home and people set stuff on fire in these parts?
Boy, would they right, huh? I do think it's locked up. I think he's going to win it. But, it's a lot closer this year than it was when Joe was competing for the Heisman. So I expect the vote to be a lot more tight, a lot tighter. And I expect, Penix to probably leap Nix in those final moments, but we'll still see. So let's get them all in there.
Hell yeah. How do you, kind of different question here. Michael Cobble is our guest, sports director over at WBRZ. How do you think Jayden Daniels projects to the NFL? Because we know he's improved a lot from the pocket. We know about his athleticism, but there are still some doubts from some people. I know a lot of people talk about his body type. Jimmy Ott on the afternoon show here has been very vocal about his running style and how he kind of runs really upright, won't be able to take those hits in the NFL. How do you think Jayden Daniels projects as an NFL prospect?
Yeah, it's absolutely one of the things I wanted to talk to Jim Nagy about, just because, they invited him to the Senior Bowl, and what are their thoughts on that? Because I'm in the same camp with Jimmy. I just feel like he's so thin that, he's going to be subject to these massive hits in the NFL running the way that he does. I'm curious to see how he does project. I don't know. He's certainly done the work in college to improve his game, and there's no reason to think that wouldn't continue once he gets with an NFL team. How much weight can he add to that frame? That is yet to be determined. But Coach Kelly, I talked to him about this during the season, about his ability to still remain elusive, and why is he so elusive when teams know that he's such a run threat? You would think they would kind of be keen on that, trying to tee off on him. But, he's long and he's lean and he has a big stride, and he's also, he's skinny. He's like tapered. He narrows at the ankles. So when I was joking with Malik Neighbors, his legs are so skinny, it's hard for guys to get a hold of him. That's why he's been able to be so elusive. But I do worry about, his longevity in the league with his style of game right now. But one of the things that's interesting, as his Heisman campaign or awareness has grown, so has some of the answers to these questions. Emil Kiper talked about that just recently, I think in an ESPN article that I read yesterday, about his projections and where he fits in the league and such. And so it'll be interesting. Brian Kelly has talked about the strength and the sinewy strength. I thought that was great when he used that word that Jayden has, and how it's kind of misleading because he is so frail looking.
That's fair. That's fair. All fair concerns. And as far as next year's team goes, Michael, flipping over to the defensive side of the ball, we were talking a little bit about Harold Perkins there in the first segment, and how he's had kind of flashes and moments of greatness, but somehow as an LSU fan, you still feel like he can give you a little bit more production. They've been towing the line between putting him in coverage, putting his hand in the dirt, now going, and we know we'll see what happens with Matt House if he's retained, but going into his junior season, his third full year at LSU, what would your expectations for Harold Perkins be?
I just hope they figure out what they want to do with them, because I agree, it's too much vacillating, too much back and forth, too much. He is one thing one time and something else differently. And the one thing that I really hate is just when I'm watching a game and I see an offensive lineman get a hold of him, because he's just negated for that play. He doesn't have the strength to break free from offensive linemen, or the moves, I guess, at right now in this part of his career to get out of that. So he really has to be untouchable in order to be a factor in a ball game. And that's a big ask of a linebacker, right? So I just hope they define a role for him, figure out exactly what he can be so that he can flash to the potential that he has. I mean, we saw that last year in, the ways that they were able to free him up and get him clean looks and shots. And so you just want to try to see that again. And does that mean, the guys around him need to be better? Probably. I think that was a little bit of an issue this year in just that a lot of guys weren't playing to their potential, and it affected everyone's ability to really maximize their game.
Yep, hopefully they're able to do that. And we'll get you out of here on this one, Michael. As you know, the SEC Championship was the last time they were going to have SEC football on CBS. They're going to make the move over to ESPN. And, man, I saw some of the videos, and I won't lie, I got a little emotional. Like the "See You Again" in the background, like that. Michael, understand that has been my whole life as a college football fan, the SEC on CBS. But you and a lot of other LSU fans were kind of upset about the lack of LSU representation in some of these videos. And I know a lot of people have other gripes with CBS as well. So are you happy that they're making that move?
Well, Mario, I'm super happy because here's what it actually means for me personally. It means that WBRZ and ABC are going to get SEC games finally. And so here locally, I'll just say it out loud, the part that nobody really thinks about. WAFB and CBS have had a monopoly on the thing that is most important to Baton Rouge in the fall for the last 20 years, right? So now it gives us and my TV station a chance to kind of shine and use a lot of that platform. And we get to do a little bit more because of that. So it's super exciting from a personal standpoint. I got a little tired of Gary and Dan and Vern, and the whole crew, but and their long commercial breaks. I'm sure ABC and ESPN are going to wind up having those same long commercial breaks, but they did a great job. There's no denying it. Everyone is going to miss that theme music. I wish, you could almost buy it from them and use something else. But I think ESPN and ABC will come up with a pretty solid package as well and be able to really spotlight it and kind of get the best games in the best spots because they're not really competing against other networks anymore.
Congratulations, my friend. I guess that is a good thing for you. And I know a lot of people are shaking their fists in approval with what you said about Gary Danielson and the crew there. So I'm glad for you, Michael, and I'm grateful you were able to give us a few minutes. Thanks for waking up with us. I know it's kind of an early call here, but we really appreciate you giving us a few minutes.
Absolutely. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Yes, sir. You as well. Michael Cobble. Give him a follow on Twitter @Cobble. Honestly, man, I'll miss Gary a little bit. I'm kind of in the same camp. I'm not the biggest fan, not because he's biased or anything. I just don't think he's the best color guy. I'm sorry. That's just my opinion. You can have another one. He does the work. He's definitely a legend with what he's accomplished as a broadcaster, but I'm definitely ready for some new blood there. And I know a lot of LSU fans are as well. So shout out to Michael Cobble for giving us a few minutes. We'll have another guest on the other side of this break and talk to Caroline Fenton of 102.5 The Game as we go out to Nashville, talk a little bit more general college football with Caroline, as we do every week. That's coming up on the other side. This is Off the Bench, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob.
All right, go to All-Star Toyota of BatonRouge.com, All-Star Toyota of BatonRouge.com. Whether you're buying new, if you're leasing, or if you're checking out that rental department that we tell you about every single day, just know that the full fleet is available in every single thing that we talk about with All-Star. So no matter what you're looking for, if you want a full-size SUV, you need it for your big crew. Well, they got the Sequoia. If you'd rather go to the minivan game, they've got the Sienna. But if you just want a midsize SUV, and also I tell you this, the midsize SUVs are bigger than you're probably thinking right now. Like for me, I've got a Highlander, and y'all know, look, we've got a huge family, but it works for us, right? We can check out the Highlander. We can check out the 4Runner, some different options there. So go see them today. Go see it for yourself. See what fits your needs, your family's needs. You know they got sedans. You know they got hybrids. They've got the trucks, the Tundra, the Tacoma, something for everybody and all the processes that we talk about every single day. All-Star Toyota of BatonRouge.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, boat owners, check it out. It is the holiday season, which means it's time to buy yourself a gift by taking your boat to the next level with our friends at Front to Back Boat Service. Now is the perfect time to upgrade your boat and get it ready for that warmer weather, whether that's trolling motors, HD sonar, anything and everything. The Sherman family's been at it for 30 years, and Devin's going to take you through 30 more. Find him on Facebook at Front to Back Boat Service or go to fronttobackboatservice.com.
I've been doing business with Loomis for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years.
Join us for the Thursday edition of Live at Lunch. We are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar and Town Square Pizza downtown Baton Rouge. Matt Humans is with us along with Paul Nolan and Dwayne Colucci. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. weekdays on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria, and 1130 The Tiger.
Man, I love me some holiday music. Even the slow-paced ones put me in a good mood. Mario Jerez here, filling in for T-Bob and Jake. Grant Lanero and Taylor Sharp hanging out with you as well. Time to welcome on our next guest, final guest here in the second hour. She is Caroline Fenton, a regular here on OTB. She's the host of Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace over on 102.5 The Game in Nashville. Caroline, thanks for the time. How are you?
I'm great. With that slow music, it still got me fired up. Like I was hopping on to like a little snow globe or like one of those little ballerina jewelry boxes, that you wind up, and it's very like sweet music. But it's getting me going this morning. I like it.
Yeah, holidays, man, always bring the good vibes. I like it as well. Caroline, we asked our blast guests, we've been asking most guests that have come on this week what they think about the top 4 rankings in the college football playoff. Most people, especially around these parts, really upset. What do you make about Alabama getting in, Florida State, undefeated conference champion, not getting into the Final Four?
Mario, I think it's absolute total bullcrap. I think it is. It is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And Drew Corrigan, who's the head of the College Football Playoff Committee, said we need to get the best 4 teams in, not the 4 most deserving teams. which that in and of itself I don't necessarily agree with. But whatever school of thought you believe in, that the college football playoff should be the 4 best teams or should be the 4 most deserving teams, I don't think that the CFP satisfied either metric. I don't think that they got it right, because I think that Georgia still is one of the best 4 teams in the country. So if you want to say that we want the 4 best teams, I think Georgia should be there. I hate the argument of Alabama should get in because Alabama would beat Florida State on a neutral site head-to-head. I don't know that.
Exactly.
I mean, this isn't Fantasyland football. We go off of what happens on the field. I mean, I thought that Oregon, as did Vegas, thought that Oregon would beat Washington. Washington was the better team through 4 quarters. I thought Georgia was going to beat Alabama. They didn't. I thought that Alabama was going to blow Auburn out of the Iron Bowl. They didn't. That's why we play the games, is to see who is the better team on a field, not because of what a bunch of old men think. It's because they are crunching the numbers. So I think it's unfair and unjust that Florida State did everything that they possibly could have done, and they still didn't get in, even though they beat a top 15 Louisville team with a 3rd-string quarterback. And here's my thing. Look, this is not an anti-Alabama sentiment. I don't want it to come across as that. It's not the fact that it's Alabama. It's more so the inconsistency with the college football playoff committee. I believe wholeheartedly that if Nick Saban in Alabama were in Mike Norvell and Florida State's shoes, and they went out and won a conference championship game with a 3rd-string quarterback and went 13-0, we would instead be singing the praises of Nick Saban and that Alabama team. Look what they did without their starting quarterback. Look how great of a coach Nick Saban is. They did it again. Meanwhile, we look at Florida State and Mike Norvell like, well, you got a 3rd-string quarterback, so what you did, it wasn't necessarily very impressive. So I disagree wholeheartedly, but good for ESPN because they're going to get eyes on the Alabama-Michigan matchup.
Well said. Very subjective and stupid, and we ignore the context of Alabama struggling with Auburn and Southern freaking Florida with their starting quarterback, who's getting a lot of love right now in Jalen Milroe. So just really subjective, really dumb. That's kind of been the universal opinion of all of our guests so far, Caroline. And we talked a lot of LSU football in the first hour today. I wanted to talk more general SEC with you. And one question I had for you is your thoughts on Lane Kiffin through his time at Ole Miss so far. I feel like, especially, given the time and the climate of college football with the NIL and the transfer portal and kind of the lack of resources that they have compared to their peers in the SEC and the SEC West, he's done a great job. And they're in a New Year's 6 again facing off against Penn State. So what do you think? How would you, describe the work that Lane Kiffin has done in his time at Ole Miss, and how excited realistically should their fans be going forward?
I think Lane Kiffin has done a fantastic job. And look, I'm not the biggest Lane Kiffin fan in the world, but I don't think that we as a college football fan society necessarily give Lane Kiffin enough credit for the job that he is doing with what he's doing it with. This is the 2nd time in Ole Miss football history that they've finished with 10 wins. And, oh, yeah, by the way, the last time it happened was 2 years ago under Lane Kiffin. So twice in 3 years, Ole Miss has finished with 10 wins for the first time in the history of the football program. I think that's incredibly impressive, especially when you look at the losses on Ole Miss's schedule this year, just to Alabama and to Georgia, the 2 best teams in the SEC, and I think 2 of the best teams in the country. And they were, it didn't look great in either of those games, but I think that what Lane Kiffin is building is really impressive, especially considering the disadvantage that Lane Kiffin has in terms of resources. Ole Miss doesn't have the same amount of money that I guess an LSU or an A&M or a Georgia or an Alabama might have. They simply just don't have the same amount of resources. They don't recruit at as high of a level as Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Texas A&M, yet he's out-coaching that roster. I think I look back at what Jimbo had, the money, the resources, the facilities, the buy-in, the 5 stars, and how Texas A&M fell so short of expectations. I mean, 5-7 season last year, it's ridiculous. If Lane Kiffin is coaching at Texas A&M with those resources, with those recruits, I think Texas A&M is where they wanted to be, consistently in Atlanta and possibly even a college football playoff contender. We don't give Lane Kiffin enough credit, I think, because of his antics on Twitter, but he's doing a really impressive job.
Man, and I feel like that's overblown a little bit too. Like, he's not the same person he was 5-10 years ago. Like, he's always showing love to his daughters. He's active in the community. I think he's done some growth there. And I know he was sober for a little bit too. So he became sober a little while ago. So that's another lifestyle change he made. That might be a little overblown. And 2-2 against LSU in your first 4 years over there will definitely endear you to the fan base in Oxford. You also mentioned Texas A&M there. What do you think of their new coaching staff? Mike Elko coming in, and now Klein is a new OC. Do you think the Aggies will be a factor in the West now post Jimbo Fisher?
I think Mike Elko was such a fantastic hire for Texas A&M. And that was kind of, whenever Jimbo Fisher did get fired, whenever the news came out, that was one name that kind of rose to at least my own personal list of candidates that Texas A&M should focus in on, because he is familiar with the program. He is familiar with the culture. I think we all know Texas A&M is different. Like, Texas football is different. And I think you need someone that not just knows, but appreciates that. I talked with Ross Bjork, the Texas A&M athletic director, and he said we did a breakdown of some of the most successful coaches in the SEC, the coaches that have gotten to Atlanta, the coaches that have been to the playoffs. And one thing that they found was that some of the best coaches in this league are defensive coaches. Kirby, defensive guy. Nick Saban, defensive guy. You want to throw Coach O in there? Let's throw Coach O in there, defensive guy. So I think that the style of play that Texas A&M traditionally has wanted to play and has been successful playing is just really good defense. And Mike Elko satisfies that. And I think the new trend now is kind of the offensive-minded coaches, whether it's a Lincoln Riley, or whether it's, Lane Kiffin, insert offensive guru there. But I think Mike Elko is the right fit. But they just hired Colin Klein as their offensive coordinator, who was the OC at Kansas State. And I think that's probably a tough decision for Colin Klein. He went to Kansas State. He played for Kansas State. Probably was his dream job. Leaving Kansas State can't be easy. But I think that being an OC for a defensive head coach is probably every offensive coach's dream, because that's his offense. He gets to run that offense. And I think Mike Elko, at least I hope Mike Elko, for Texas A&M's sake, will give Colin Klein the leeway to be able to run the offense and do his thing. Mike Elko takes care of the defense. There is a transfer portal palooza happening in College Station. It's like every single time I log on 24/7 Sports, it's like, oh, someone new from Texas A&M's entering the transfer portal. So that's not a great sign, but I do think Texas A&M has the right coaches in place.
Great insight from Caroline Fenton. We'll get you out of here on this one, Caroline. Are you looking forward to Army-Navy at all this weekend? That's where Jake is traveling to right now. And last year, me and my buddies actually started, I don't know if you're a drinker, but we started a fun drinking game. At least it was fun last year, where every time either one of these teams complete a pass, we would take a shot. And last year, a 2017 victory for Army in double overtime, there were 3 completed passes the entire game. Now, Jay tells me Army throws the ball a little bit more this year, so maybe we're not going to be able to do that. But are you looking forward to the matchup in Boston this weekend?
You asked if I drink. I don't think that you would need to be a drinker or not to play that game, because you're probably not going to be taking a shot. You're going to end that game on a sober note. I'm pumped for the Army-Navy game. I'm jealous of Jake. I wish I could go to that game. That's on my sports bucket list, is to be there, just because it feels different. It's not pretty football. Like, if you're a fan of air it out, of heavy pass, up tempo, this is not your game. But it's just, that's the Surface Academy. So yeah, I'm absolutely looking forward to it. Don't know if I'm going to be able to tune in. I'll be in New York this weekend for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. So bigger day around these parts for LSU fans going on in New York City. But that game is always a blast, and I'm jealous of Jake.
Fair enough. That's awesome that you get to go, Caroline. Enjoy the Big Apple. As always, thanks for giving us a few minutes this morning, and you have yourself a great weekend.
Mario, you're the best. Appreciate you for having me on. Have a good one.
Yes, ma'am. You as well. Caroline Fenton of 102.5 The Game. The opinion about the Final Four, like I said, seems to be pretty universal. And I understand the other side, but again, it's just really subjective and dumb. And quite frankly, I'm kind of over talking about it. So we won't talk about it anymore. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour doing a quick segment about some coaches on the move in college football and maybe which ones will make the biggest impact. This is OTB on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob.
All right, go to the website, GordonGives.com, GordonGives.com. You still have a couple of days In fact, well, you got a day and a half. That deadline is going to be December the 7th. And, of course, we're talking about the 488 bikes that Gordon is giving away here throughout the state of Louisiana. Now, Alexandria, Lafayette, Lake Charles, Monroe, Shreveport. Remember, that was November the 30th deadline, but be on the lookout for those winners when they get announced. They're going to be announced in Lake Charles, Lafayette, Alexandria coming up Friday, December the 8th, on Saturday, December the 9th, in Shreveport and Monroe. And then the deadline is tomorrow for Hammond and Baton Rouge, and then the announcement comes on December the 15th. So again, go to GordonGives.com. That is the website to sign up. Follow them on all major social media. @GetGordon is always going to be that handle. You know the number, area code in Louisiana, followed by 888-8888. Get Gordon and get it done.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further.
This Sunday, as we bring you 3 different NFL games, we'll kick things off with our noon kickoff. It's the Jaguars and Browns. Immediately following that, it's Bills and Chiefs, and then our nightcap, the Eagles at Cowboys. Tune in to hear all 3 of those games here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria, and 1130 The Tiger.
Shout out to Caroline Fenton and Michael Cobble for both giving us a few minutes here in the second hour. Didn't leave us much time. That is my fault. But we did tease some talk about college football here and some coaches that are on the move. Taylor, Bobby Petrino is going back to Arkansas, and that is really crazy. That is really funny, but it is something that is actually happening.
I think they made this move for one reason only. I think they made this move with every intention of firing Sam Pittman halfway through the year. You plug in a big name that you know your guys will play for, that you know the fans at least like, and then at the end of next season, they're going to hire some young up-and-coming coach to replace Bobby Petrino, who was the interim head coach. I think that's exactly why you made this move, because other than that, I don't get it. Not only can it create tension because you're coming back to a place where you objectively had a lot of success as head coach. I mean, remember, he didn't get fired because he lost football games. He got fired for what he did off the field.
Yes.
So, Sam Pittman's got a target on his back. You bring in a guy who was successful there, who was the head coach. Now you're his boss. I can't imagine that there's any good vibes in that building. And Bobby Petrino wasn't even that good this past year. They were like 56th in the country in offensive rankings. You not only did you need to not bring him in for the headache that it could cause in the coaching staff, but you could have brought in somebody that had better on-field success last year. That, to me, that's the reason they made this move.
Yeah, and if you're new to the situation, what he did off the field was he had an affair with one of the staffers that worked for Arkansas football at the time. They wanted a motorcycle. He crashed it. He wore a neck brace and had to do a press conference and looked absolutely ridiculous. But he's back at Arkansas after all these years, and for what it's worth, I do agree with Taylor. I think that it made sense to keep Pittman going into this year, but that definitely seems to be kind of a contingency plan if stuff continues to go south in Fayetteville. So maybe we'll talk more college football coaches later on in the show. We know Tulane has to find a new head coach as well, but that'll do it for us here in hour number 2. We'll come back and open up hour number 3 with Big Deal or No Big Deal. Chef Michael Johnson joins us at 9:15, and we'll preview Pelicans versus Lakers semifinals of the in-season tournament. That's all coming up in hour number 3. This is Off the Bench on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Life in Louisiana is like a run-on sentence. A poem that doesn't rhyme. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
I've been doing business with Loomis for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, boat owners, check it out. It is the holiday season, which means it's time to buy yourself a gift by taking your boat to the next level with our friends at Front to Back Boat Service. Now is the perfect time to upgrade your boat and get it ready for that warmer weather, whether that's trolling motors, HD sonar, anything and everything. The Sherman family's been at it for 30 years, and Devin's going to take you through 30 more. Find them on Facebook at Front to Back Boat Service or go to fronttobackboatservice.com.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com. Oh, by the way, we do shutters too.
His name was Cain. He had a horse along the countryside.
Good morning. It is 9 a.m. on Thursday, December 7th. In Baton Rouge, you can expect clear skies with a high of 65. Coming up on hour 3 of OTB, we have Chef Michael Johnson and Big Deal or No Big Deal. You can follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at OTB_ESPN or watch on the 104.5 ESPN YouTube channel. OTB OT live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio starts now.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Jacob Hester and T-Bob Hebert.
Yeah.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob.
Hey, P, they said I got to come off the bench.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. Yo.
What's up, people? Welcome in to hour number 3 of Off the Bench, a Thursday edition. Mario Jerez here, filling in for T-Bob and Jake. T-Bob in Disney World for a few more days. Hester off to cover Army versus Navy. We are holding it down in the meantime. Grant Lanero in my usual spot on the audio board. Taylor Sharp getting us on YouTube, also acting as kind of my co-host today. Shout out to Caroline Fenton and to Michael Cobble as well for giving us a few minutes there in the second hour. If you missed that conversation, you could just hit rewind on YouTube or you can catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com. All right, we will talk to Chef Michael Johnson coming up in about 15 minutes, our weekly Munchies segment. So start getting your questions in the Bayou Ford chat. I see y'all are fighting about something completely unrelated, but if y'all could stop doing that and get your Munchies question into the chat, I would really appreciate it. Always enjoy talking to Chef, both on the phone and on this side of the desk. And we'll also preview Pelicans versus Lakers at 9:30. A lot of you in the chat are asking for that. Wanted to prioritize football because it's still early December, but I'm definitely very hyped for Pelicans and Lakers from Las Vegas tonight. All right, let's kick off hour number 3 like we do every Thursday with a new edition of Big Deal or No Big Deal.
Big deal! Ain't no big deal.
Big deal? No big deal. Big deal.
No big deal.
No big deal.
No big deal.
Let's keep the college football conversation going here. We talked a little bit about Texas A&M and their new coaching staff with Caroline Fenton, but looks like Walter Nolan, the defensive tackle, not going to stick around to play for Mike Elko and company. He was the number 1 prospect in the 2022 class, was Walter Nolan. You know, that class that was made so much of. Sliced bread, Jimbo Fisher, Nick Saban, that whole deal. Nolan, one of 4 former top recruits to enter the portal yesterday. He joins LT Overton, who's a 5-star defensive end, and offensive lineman Chris Bisontis, as well as Jake Johnson, Max Johnson's little brother, the star tight end that we talked about a little while ago. This seems to be a really big deal, especially for people around these parts, because this is a position of need for LSU. I know that they tried really hard to get certain D tackles this past year in the transfer portal, kind of swung and missed there, but this seems to be a big deal. The production hasn't really been there for Nolan too much as an Aggie, but a new fit could definitely bring some good dividends.
No, it's a big deal. You mentioned number 1 player in the country coming out of high school, big physical defensive lineman. Not a great pass rusher, but he does stuff the run. That's kind of what his role was at Texas A&M. I imagine everyone's going to go after him, and then you just mentioned you lose Max Johnson, you lose Jake Johnson, you lose Walter Nolan, and then honestly the other day, star receiver Evan Stewart, who in my opinion is the best player on the entire offense, he was posting some stuff on social media to make it look like he was kind of wavering from his time at Texas A&M. He hasn't officially entered the portal yet, but that's somebody to keep an eye on right now. Bad vibes in College Station. It is a big deal.
Ooh, kind of an exodus there. Definitely a lot of good players there, kind of up for grabs in the transfer portal. I'm getting used to it, man. You know, it was weird at first. I still kind of don't like the mentality of some of these guys that leave before they're supposed to. But I'd be lying if I didn't say I kind of look forward to a little bit kind of the new free agency in the current world of college football. Whoever's next in the rotation, Grant, Taylor, either one of you guys want to file an entry here? Big deal, no big deal?
Well, I did not have an entry prepared, but
you don't have to.
Yeah, well, I actually have a one.
All right.
Pelicans making a bit of a run into the in-season tournament. Me and my friends have had a bit of a back and forth on this. It's always good to see the Pelicans doing well. Made it to the top 4, to the neutral site games, where you could say maybe there's a bit of a cutoff in the severity of the games. Is it a big deal to make a run in this tournament, or are we still thinking this is just a glorified regular season game?
I think, I don't think it's too big of a deal. Like, I've made my opinion on this tournament very clear. Like, at the end of the day, it's just the NBA trying to drum up interest for the regular season because so many people are not interested in it. But the games have been competitive. They talked about this with Jimmy and Charlie yesterday. There are $500,000 on the line for these guys. And I know that that's not a lot of money for some of them, but I made this analogy. If you're playing pickup and somebody bets you $20, if you win the pickup game, you're going to go a little bit harder, right? And the premise of that might be ridiculous, you know, whatever. They're divas, they're millionaires already. But the games have been intense. They have been fun. And I know a lot of people hate on the court, the pretty colors, but it's just something different. And as a Pelicans fan who thought this thing was stupid from the beginning, I'm very much looking forward to the game tonight. Now, I'm not considering it a championship. Like, if the Pelicans win the next 2 games and take home that trophy, it's not the Larry O'Brien. I'm not going to miss work the next day, which I would do if the Pelicans won the NBA Finals. But it's been fun, man. I kind of had a negative mentality about it from the start, and maybe this is only because the Pelicans have made that run that you're talking about, but I think it is a big deal. It's good for teams like the Pels and the Pacers, who have also made it that far, that maybe wouldn't get that national exposure, that are getting it now, and the games have been really fun.
Mario's lying. He's going to the championship parade and everything if they win the in-season tournament. Look, it's not a big deal because at the end of the day, it is a glorified regular season game. However, it's always a big deal when you make a run, whether it's in the postseason or regular season. This team, they're still pretty young. They still haven't played a ton of games together. If they can get on a rhythm and a winning streak, it is a big deal for their team chemistry.
Before you get your entry here, Taylor, I wanted to kind of piggyback off of what Grant said for my next one. Jose Alvarado and Josh Hart are having some fun with each other on Twitter, and some people are legitimately upset at Josh Hart, like thinking he kind of crossed the line here. I don't think that, but Jose Alvarado addressed the media yesterday and said that if the Pelicans win the championship in the in-season tournament and they win the $500K, he's not going to touch that money. He's going to put it in a fund for his daughters, for his kids to use, and he will not use that money at all. Well, Josh Hart, former teammate of Jose Alvarado, former Pelican, retweeted that post talking about what Alvarado was going to do with the money and said, "What a loser. Go get you some ice." the I assume childless Josh Hart said that on Twitter, and some people actually took offense. So
I don't
no
think that's that big of a deal. I mean, they're former teammates. He's just trying to be funny. Jose's not going to take what he said seriously. I get it. It's social media. It's kind of a bad look, and people love to overreact at every little thing. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Well said. Josh Hart, kind of a weird cat, but funny a lot of the times, too.
All right, Mario. A former Jacksonville Jaguars financial employee has been accused of stealing more than $22 million from that franchise over a 4-year period by manipulating its virtual credit card program, which he was in charge of. The guy's name is Amit Patel. He's been charged with wire fraud and illegal monetary transactions. Stealing $22 million from your employer, take it or leave. I mean, big deal or no big deal. And back to my Hunt Palmer days.
Wrong show there, brother. Yeah, that's a big deal. $22 million. Honestly, like, he was going to get popped eventually, but I'm surprised he got away with that as long as he did. If you read the article, this dude, he did like LaToya Cantrell. He bought vacations for himself. He bought nice watches. He did a bunch of stuff on the Jaguars' dime, a lot of really extravagant stuff. And as a professional sports organization, it's kind of disappointing that it took you this long to kind of catch him. He's been at this since 2019. And $22 million is not a small amount of money, especially for kind of a small market organization like the Jacksonville Jaguars. So it's not like it's going to affect anything on the field. Trevor Lawrence is still eventually going to come back from injury, but that's a big deal. And the Jaguars definitely need to take a little better care of whatever's going on in-house there. You can't let an employee steal $22 million from your franchise.
Yeah, they said he had numerous lavish personal purchases. They didn't go into detail of what that was, but I could see how this would slip through the cracks in Jacksonville because the only thing you're concerned with is moving your team to London, but it's one of those things you just cannot do. Mario, I do have another big deal or no big deal.
All right.
Look, triple-doubles are great. They happen all the time. Luka Doncic, my favorite NBA player, and shout out somewhere T-Bob Hebert is listening and saying, Taylor, of course your favorite player is Luka Doncic.
Of course your favorite player is Luka Doncic.
Anyways, he had a triple-double, 40 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists, but that triple-double came in the first half. He actually only played 3 whole quarters in this game. He had a triple-double at halftime. It's his 60th career triple-double. It actually puts him past Larry Bird in the sole possession of 9th overall in NBA history. So a halftime triple-double, big deal or no big deal?
That is a big deal. Luka's a freaking beast, and people forget because they didn't really have the playoff run last year what he's already accomplished as an NBA player. Not just the individual stats, but 2 years ago, those guys were in the conference finals. Remember, they killed the Suns in Chris Paul's last game. And the potential, I know a lot of people are hesitant to go all in with that team because of Kyrie Irving, and I feel that way as well. But, man, those guys as a duo, if they're able to figure out that defense and if they're able to just not get in too much adversity where Kyrie goes off and does dumb stuff, they can make a deep run, man. With Luka and with Kyrie and with Jason Kidd, who's been a good, at least, offensive coach, that team has a lot of potential. They're probably a little underrated in the grand scheme of things. And the Pelicans beat them in this tournament, which makes me happy. So I think that is a big deal. Grant, do you have any thoughts about Luka and his triple-double there?
Just that I agree very much with the idea that he's in the last year or so, he's started to be overlooked a bit. I think, like you said, partially because of the lack of a playoff run. I'd also say that a lot of it is because Jokic has taken another step and become even crazier. And I think without Jokic getting even better, there'd be some discussion about Luka being up there as one of the best in the NBA. So just agree with you said. It definitely a big deal. And I do think that while early in his career, he maybe got the hype he deserved. I think because of a couple circumstances, he's maybe not getting as much attention as he could this season.
Well said. And we'll preview the Pelicans-Lakers game coming up at 9:30. But my last entry here, I did want to talk about NBA just real quick and talk about the officials because we talked a little bit about the result between the Suns and the Lakers the other night. Looked like Austin Reeves didn't have full possession. He was still granted a timeout. Well, that's going to put the onus on the referees tonight, right? Same team, the Lakers, against a small market team in the Pelicans. And guess who the lead referee is, Taylor? Our guy, Scott Foster, will be the lead referee for this game. He normally bullies Chris Paul, but he has been known to kind of favor the Lakers. I mean, his buddy, Tim Donaghy, who he made several phone calls to while that investigation was going on, literally went to prison for rigging games in favor of the Lakers. So I could see how that would be a factor. A lot of people hate when you talk about referees, but this is a topic of conversation going into the game tonight. So big deal or no big deal? I guess the potential of the referees impacting this game tonight.
I'm going to say big deal because I know New Orleans sports fans. I know how they feel about referees. I know their overreaction to referees a lot of times. If this game ends in the Lakers' favor on a controversial call, we will never hear the end of it. So big deal for that. But, I guess no big deal, but big deal here locally.
Well said. Well said. We'll see if Scott Foster calls a fair game tonight. Again, that preview coming up at 9:30. We'll talk a little bit more Pels versus Lakers. Zion and Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum all playing. So hopefully that's enough for you to stick around and listen and get hyped for this game tonight. But that'll do it for Big Deal or No Big Deal. We'll come back on the other side. We'll do our weekly Munchie segment with LSU Athletics Executive Chef Michael Johnson. Please get your questions into the Bayou Ford chat, #Munchies, and we'll ask Chef anything you want us to. That's coming up on the other side. This is OTB 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria, and 1130 The Tiger.
All right, go to centralplumbing.org, centralplumbing.org. Now, first off, we'll tell you about their emergency service. 24/7 also means 365. And so we're in the holiday season. It's going to be a lot of days where a lot of people don't work. Well, Central Plumbing is not one of those. All right, they're going to be available to you. If you're like me and you've got family coming into town throughout December, it's not just the holidays, it's throughout December. Well, the last thing that you want is to have an issue, have a problem where you're not going to be the best host. That's why you call Central Plumbing. That's why you can call them at any time. They'll come out. They'll fix whatever situation that you might have going on. We give you the website as well, not just the phone number, because it's not only in emergencies. If we're looking at a remodel, bathroom remodel for your home or your business, and come in, tell you exactly what they would do. Hey, we could do this. We can move this here. We can put that there. Vanity, shower, tub, tile, whatever it might be. And also, you can ask them about tankless water heaters. Never run out of hot water ever again. Go tankless today with Central Plumbing. centralplumbing.org.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com. Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
I've been doing business with Loomis for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com.
Join me for a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show presented by Rouse's. Luke Johnson on the Saints, Chris Blair on the Tigers. We're talking Heisman. Hunt Palmer Show 1 to 3 weekdays, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
OTB OT with Hester and T-Bob on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 94.7 ESPN Alexandria.
Very excited to host the Munchies segment again today. Host. I forgot how to talk apparently at 9:19 on a Thursday. But Chef Michael Johnson is our guest, as he is this time every Thursday morning. Chef, thanks for waking up with us as always. How are you today?
Absolutely. I'm good, guys. How are you?
I'm great, man. Enjoying the cold weather, enjoying the Christmas music, good vibes over here. So let's get right into it here. Definitely lacking some Munchies questions. If we could step up in the chat, I would really appreciate it. But the first one we have here, Chef, is Christmas related. Do you go goose or turkey for Christmas, and what sides are going to be available?
I'm a turkey guy. I've eaten goose before. Goose is a little bit livery for me. I even would go duck before goose. And honestly, I'd go duck before any other bird just because of my sentiments towards the fat. You know what I mean? But yeah, I guess kind of a traditional guy if it's between the two of those things. Honestly, though, what I really love on Christmas is a prime rib roast, man. It's my aunt got me into that tradition. She used to throw down a long bone prime rib every Christmas, and we don't make it over to her house as often anymore, but it was definitely something that I took to heart and enjoy doing. And so, when done well, it's truly a treat.
Well said. Chef, #Munchies from Lars. What is Chef Michael Johnson's favorite soul food? Do you have a type of soul food that you favor?
Yeah, I mean, greens is going to be probably the most, and I don't know. I like Southern comfort food. I like a lot of different stuff, like stewed okra and tomatoes. But greens, and not collard greens, like mustard greens, or even I like turnip greens. And you got to have some pork fat in there, some salt pork or something of that nature. Not bacon either. I'm talking about I don't know, like a hawk or some knuckles or even a pig's feet in there, to give it a little gelatinous to the liquid, and people will kind of shirk at this, but I like mushrooms in my greens as well.
Ooh, okay, different, but I like it. I'm definitely already starting to get hungry with what you're laying down here. #Munchies. How can I make the best chocolate chip cookies for Santa this holiday season?
Butter cookies are always the best way to go, and you guys know that I'm not much of a baker. I do know where to find some good cookies, but I always go with like true butter cookies. Get out of the Crisco and that kind of stuff. But a true butter cookie, when you can find it, is rich. It's moist. They bake up nice. So it's not the healthiest thing for you, but if you're looking for a good tasting cookie, butter cookies are the way to go.
Man, that sounds so good. #Munchies. I don't know if you are willing to answer this, but if you can, who's the most well-known person that you have cooked for, and how did that turn out?
Oh man, I've cooked for quite a few famous people. Paul Allen was the owner of the Seahawks and Microsoft and such, and so I think probably he was probably the broadest known. He did a lot of donation work and stuff like that, and so I would say probably Paul. And you've heard me tell the story before about one of the days that I cooked for Paul. It was kind of an extraordinary circumstance, and we brought the food into his suite, and his personal chef, Chet, kind of grabbed me by the arm and said, "Hey, it's not going to happen today. We're not going to talk to him," and pulled me back. And Paul was glued to his Microsoft Surface, and he was watching something on it. And Chet came back to me later and explained to me that Paul was actually watching live footage of his underwater research vessel find the SS Indianapolis that day. And he was watching it live, so I mean, I've cooked for a lot of important people. I've cooked for the Bushes in Arlington at the old stadium, not at the new stadium, for ALCS championship game. I've cooked for at the Olympics, I guess. I mean, there was like 4,000 dignitaries in the same suite. So, I mean, the president was there, the vice president was there, the Prince of Saudi Arabia was there. I mean, if you think about the people that show up for the Olympics, that was a pretty cool deal.
That's big time. No pressure. Your like blood pressure doesn't rise. Like you don't feel a little something when the stakes are that high, or
on the contrary, like I thrive under that pressure. My brain just kind of kicks in and functions really well in those scenarios. And like there was a couple of things that happened at the Olympics that kind of stick out to me. One, they have a world like they have a health department that travels around with dignitaries like that ensure, that the foods are so that it's safe to eat for the dignitaries or the presidents or whoever it is. and they travel all over the world doing it. It's not just a national thing, like it's an international committee that does it. And they came in and they oversaw us an entire day for 8 hours in the kitchen, watching us prep, making sure everything was clean and stuff. And this guy, I remember his name was Henry. And Henry came in and he followed me around for 4 hours, and he was supposed to be there for 8 hours. And he walked up to me and said, "Hey, listen, I've been watching you for 4 hours and you haven't missed a beat yet. Like I haven't found anything wrong in what you've done so far." And he said, "Hey, I strongly feel like you're going to be okay for the rest of the day. I traveled in from halfway across the world today. I'm tired. Are you okay with me leaving today?" And I said, "Listen, man, you just gave me one of the best compliments ever." This world-class health department guy just told me that, that he felt comfortable me cooking food. And so, that was really cool. But the next day he came back and it was execution day, like we were cooking that day for the opening ceremonies for the suite. And Henry was there. He was overwatching the execution and the cooking processes. And he temped this piece of venison, and I had it at 145. And he's like, "Chef, you got to take that to 165 degrees." And I looked at him and I was like, "Call your boss." And he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Brother, this is my moment right here to, put the best food that I can put out ever for all of these important people. And you're telling me I have to cook a piece of venison to 165 degrees. That thing is going to be dead when it gets there." I was like, "I don't want to serve dignitaries overcooked venison. Can you call your boss and ask for an exception?" And he called his boss, and his boss was like asking him questions, and Henry's like staring at me, looking at me, having this conversation across the kitchen, nodding his head yes, answering questions. He hangs up the phone. He says, "Are you okay with 145? And I said, 145 is better than 165. I'll take what I can get." And so I convinced them to, to let me cook the venison to a lesser temperature. And it was really because the confidence that Henry had in me the day before, watching me execute. That's awesome. And so they gave me some leniency there. So it was a really awesome moment.
That is so awesome. I can tell you're so passionate about what you do, and whenever I host and we get to hear these origin stories of how you came up, that makes me so happy, man. That is a cool memory. This was one that kind of came from my own research, Chef. I was looking for some like fun generic questions to ask you. And one of these is, how do you feel about restaurant critics? Because I didn't know this, but apparently a lot of chefs don't really like restaurant critics, think that their role is kind of overrated, I guess, don't give them special treatment. How do you feel about restaurant critics?
I think that restaurant critics are overrated themselves, and I can say that because I'm not a restaurant anymore, and so I don't have to worry about the repercussions of it. But I think that it's kind of like wine. If 25 people come in and they like the wine, I don't need somebody else to tell me that the wine is good. If those 10 people think that the wine is good, then the wine is good. You know what I mean? And I understand this is that restaurant critics are built off of a platform that has a higher understanding of what food is supposed to be, right? So I get the purpose behind it, and but I also have seen and heard about, multiples of Michelin star chefs taking their own lives because of the pressure that's brought onto them from trying to maintain something that's intangible, like this star. And I, when it gets that serious, brother, I take offense to it. Like, food is wonderful. It's about, there's lots of reasons that you eat. It's for social. It's for sustenance. It's for being seen. It's to go out and enjoy time with family. There's lots of different reasons that you go out to eat, but none of that should cost anybody their life when it comes down to the pressure of trying to sustain a star rating. You know what I mean? And one person shouldn't control. Like Yelp for a long time was, anybody could get on Yelp, and I go on Yelp, but I also have learned from Yelp that you read the good ones and the bad ones. You don't just read the bad ones and go with it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And do your research too. One of the things that I loved about Seattle is you could walk up to the restaurant and you could see the health scores on the windows. They put them forward facing, and I think that that's something that should, more places, more states should employ, is a forward-facing health inspection, so you don't have to go looking for it. It's there for you. That should be something that you should judge a restaurant off of as well. Just because they have great food doesn't mean that it's clean in the back, and I've walked into restaurants before and gone straight to the kitchen and poked my head in there just to see what it's like, because I don't care if the food is good if it's being served off the floor. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to, there's a need for that. So.
Man, well said. That was some good insight. Definitely learned something new there. I didn't know things got that intense. And yeah, they made a South Park episode about that. I don't know if you're a South Park guy, but yeah, basically
absolutely
making fun of Yelpers. So we'll get you out of here on this one, Chef. Christmas related. What is the best thing to smoke for Christmas? The best food to smoke for Christmas?
Well, just T-Bob's voice just came screaming through my ears there.
Same here.
Yeah. I think like venison for me, and or even duck. I like the seasonality of those two things. I spend a lot of time in the woods this time of year. Not just hunting, but kind of revisiting self, I suppose, and centering myself, and in the process of hunting, that's the seek, I suppose, and when you go duck hunting and you bring them back and you share it with your family, it's great. And same thing with deer. And I guess those things lend themselves well to the smoker. I mean, duck sausage, even if you're grinding it and doing something to grind the fat and the sausage, I just like trying new things, and I think that either one of those two things, venison or duck, would be fantastic this time of year.
Chef Michael Johnson, we talk to him every Thursday. Really enjoy this segment, especially when I get to host it. Chef, you made me really hungry, like you always do. Really appreciate you taking the time. Really appreciate you coming on today.
Anytime, guys. Take care.
Yes, sir. You as well. Chef Michael Johnson, LSU Athletics executive chef. Man, like I said, I love when he comes on here and tells his origin stories. That is somebody who's really, really good at what he does. Like, we know how much money goes into LSU football, how much emotional investment, and that man is charged with their nutrition. Like, that's a very, very, very important job, and you could tell how much he still enjoys it. Like, when he looks back and, thinks about those moments where he knew he was good enough to do this. It kind of makes me think of my own kind of personal journey, little moments throughout my life. So that's awesome. I love people who are good at what they do and also passionate about what they do. So shout out to Chef Michael Johnson. All right, we'll come back, and before we get to Ask the Bench in the final segment, we'll talk a little NBA, Pelicans and Lakers from Las Vegas tonight. It's the semifinal of the in-season tournament. We'll preview that game, give you our thoughts. That's coming up on the other side. This is OTB 104.5, ESPN Baton Rouge.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I've been doing business with Loomis for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance jobs, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. And I think we're rocking and rolling.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The Dome. It's state championship week in high school football, and we get things started at 6 with Louisiana Prep Preview presented by Brock. And at 7, it's the select Division I state championship game between the Catholic High Bears and Acadiana Wrecking Rams. All right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
OTB OT with Hester and T-Bob on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 94.7 ESPN Alexandria.
Yeah, boy, they're like, Rich Rod at West Virginia, a game away from the Natty.
It's true.
I can't believe it. Go to Patient Plus Urgent Care.
It all
Patient
worked
Plus,
out for you.
Yeah, right? PatientPlusUC.com, where you will see the difference. Quality care for life's unexpected moments. Also great commercials and a great mascot with that little puppet. I love that little puppet. But look, it's not about games, okay? This is about your health. It's about getting in, get better. There's colds going around, stomach bugs going around. You and your family need the treatment you deserve. Go to Patient Plus Urgent Care. You're going to see the difference. PatientPlusUC.com.
T-Bob's right. You will see the difference as soon as you walk into any of the facilities, right? It's not like they have just one main facility and the rest of them aren't up to par. I mean, they all are going to blow you away. So any that you walk into, remember there's one that's convenient for you in the Baton Rouge area. No matter where you're at, find the location that is nearest you. You can do that at PatientPlusUC.com. Get in and get better.
Man, shout out to Patient Plus. And shout out to Rich Rod as well. They're playing, his team, Jacksonville State's playing ULL in the New Orleans Bowl. They're a 3-point favorite, and I'm going to hammer that -3. A lot of UL fans talking a lot of smack on Twitter recently for like no reason at all. I do not understand it. But you have some thoughts
Have
there,
you ever
Taylor?
met any UL fans, Mario?
That's the thing, though, man. I have, and I feel like they're not that obnoxious in real life. Like I've been there, and they, it's not like they love LSU, but they're not gonna go out of their way and search ULL on Twitter just so they could scold LSU fans for saying UL. I feel maybe I'm wrong. You would know better than me, honestly, but it feels like that's just kind of like a really vocal minority.
Oh, dude, it's most ULL fans I know that are like that. And again, it all depends on who you know and what interactions you've had with them. I get that. It's not the whole fan base, but like no other schools like that.
Yeah.
Like, ULM could have just as much claim to the University of Louisiana as UL Lafayette does. But they don't care enough. It's the fact that they have this, I don't know if it's like a little man syndrome, a inferiority complex, whatever it is, but I mean, it seems like no one would care if it didn't mean so much to them, you know what I mean? So like now people like pick on them for it, you know what I mean? So It's like they kind of did it to themselves. I don't really know like when it started, why it started, but like we're not insulting you by calling you ULL. The name on your campus that I have been to multiple times, there's a sign that says the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. I mean, that's not an insult. Like that's your name. Like Mario, it'd be like you calling me Taylor, and I'd get mad and be like, no, I know it. Like it looks like Taylor and it's spelled like Taylor, but it's actually Travis. So you can no longer call me Taylor. Like it's just I don't really understand where it all comes from.
Yeah, it's weird. But speaking of teams that have never accomplished anything, the New Orleans Pelicans look to accomplish something tonight. They are in the semifinals of this new in-season tournament. First Take is speaking about it as we speak. Austin Rivers is an ESPN analyst now. That's awesome. Austin Rivers cleaning up pretty nice. I actually kind of enjoy his podcast. He's fiery. He has good opinions. But they are breaking down that game the same way we are. And as it stands, the Lakers are 1.5-point favorite. And I found this article from Christian Clark that I'm about to cite. I encourage you all to go read it. That pretty much previews this game tonight and talks about a conversation Willie Green had with the media yesterday. So the Lakers in whatever their stadium's called, Staples, Crypto, whatever you want to call it, they have 17 banners, right? 17 championship banners. And if they win this tournament, they're not going to add an 18th, I don't think, just for an in-season tournament. But Willie Green was asked yesterday if the Pelicans are to win this, a franchise that has never made it past the second round, one of two NBA teams to never even reach the conference finals, will you hang a banner if the Pelicans win this tournament? And Willie Green said, absolutely. How do I feel about that as a Pelicans fan? I don't love it, man. Honestly, like if you're going to do that, you might as well bring back the division title championship from 2008, just because that's kind of sad. I think it's more of a bad look than a good look. And I get the point of some people like Grant, who I know has thoughts on this. But to me, it's like we're not going to win the real championship. I don't want to flex this smaller championship where you only need to win, 5 games in a row to bring it home. Like, I want the Pelicans to win this thing for sure. As a season ticket holder, I'm pretty sure I have a chance to win a share of $1 million if the Pelicans win this. So there's personal stake in it for me. But I don't love the idea of hanging a banner if the Pelicans win this thing. If they do, you need to bring back the 2008 division title banner, the only one the Pelicans had for a long time. And you need to re-retire Pistol Pete's number 7 jersey, which was hanging in New Orleans Arena / Smoothie King Center for a long time. But no, I hope the Pelicans win, but I do not like the idea of hanging a banner. What do y'all think?
Mario, I want them to win just because I know how mad you're going to be if they hang the banner. And look, you say you're mad. Mario Jerez, you guys book this, okay? Mark it down. Mario Jerez will be shirtless at the parade, chest painted, if they win this title. No, in all seriousness, like Mario has been very outspoken about not wanting to hang a banner. I agree with you on this wholeheartedly, Mario. I mean, we talked about how cringe it is that Ole Miss has a 2023 SEC West championship when, in fact, LSU won the 2023 SEC West championship and a national title that year. I'm with you. However, if they hang the banner, like you just said, can they just put on it, we won 5 in a row?
And Grant, I know you had kind of an opposite opinion here. How old are you? How old are you?
I'm 24.
You're 24. Okay, so 2008, that would have made you how old? That was 15 years ago.
I was 9 or 10.
9 or 10.
And I remember it. I still remember it to this day.
Those are the happiest times in your life as a Pelicans fan, and even despite that, you would be okay with this banner.
No. I would be very excited about it. I unironically think it would be a really cool thing, but I am not asking for like a banner to go up because of it. Because in the end, it's year one of this. We don't know how serious teams are taking it. I don't think we will know for several years. And even if we do, it's not the real thing. It's not like, I mean, like you said, making it to a conference semis, winning the division, like that is undeniably like a much bigger thing than this is. And you want to be hanging banners up for the real thing. Now, with that said, if we get it done, I'm gonna be hyped, and I won't want a banner, but I will be celebrating. I'll be pretty excited.
As you
Mario,
should be.
can we get the same company that made UCF's 2017 national championship banner?
Yes, we can. They were in a meme the other day. I forget. Oh yeah, Florida State should crown themselves national champions just like UCF did. So yes, we can do that, Taylor. But I'm still excited for this game tonight. I was hoping it was going to be the Lakers, not off of the blown call in the game against Phoenix, but I won't call this a rivalry because that would just lack context. I think it would be a little dumb. But I will say the last 3 seasons, these games have been really intense. Like Brandon Ingram, say what you want about him. I guess you could still make the argument that Anthony Davis is the better player. However, I don't think that's going to last much longer. I think in the next few years, Anthony Davis will not be as good a player as Brandon Ingram will, and he'll be currently, at that time, the best player from that trade between the Lakers and the Pelicans that sent Anthony Davis to Los Angeles. So these games are always really intense. You always see a little bit of chippiness. What I love about the Pelicans is they do not bat down from anybody. It's a very young team, but they're always really kind of physical and very vocal with some of these older players. You saw Jose Alvarado and Chris Paul in the playoffs a couple years ago. It's that same thing with LeBron and AD, not the biggest enforcer, right? He's not coming to his defense very much, and the Pelicans know that. They seem to be even more physical with Anthony Davis throughout these matchups, and it should be a really good one. The Lakers got off to a really bad start this season, as did the Pelicans, who had a 5-game losing streak not long ago. But both these teams kind of playing much better basketball recently, and the atmosphere is going to be really fun in Las Vegas. I would assume it's going to be like 95% Lakers fans, maybe a very, very small minority in there will be repping the Pels, but this is a game with stakes, not just because of the in-season tournament, but because the Lakers are one of your adversaries in the Western Conference. They sit at 13-9 right now. The Pelicans sit at 12-10. These are two teams that might be close to each other in the standings, and this game could hold weight for reasons besides the in-season tournament. So I'm hyped for this game. It's kind of a late tip, but it's always a lot of fun when Pelicans and Lakers get together.
Yeah, it is, because you just mentioned it. They take Anthony Davis from you. He was unruly here, to say the least, his last year. He made it very known that's where he wanted to go, and then everybody's like, oh, well, they robbed the Pelicans blind. They got the best player in that trade. But like you mentioned, Brandon Ingram in that trade, he is no slouch. He is an all-star type player. That's who he is. So I agree with you. It's one of those things where it's like, even if the NCAA tournament championship doesn't mean that much to you, a win over the Lakers for the in-season tournament championship does mean that much to you. And like you said, you're not true traditional rivals, but there is some bad blood there. Like we mentioned, Anthony Davis did not leave on the best of terms. So yeah, I can totally understand how New Orleans is like, look, they took Anthony Davis from us. The media was on their side on that whole thing, but we got us a squad down here too, just as good, if not better than you. So I can understand why people are fired up for this matchup.
And real quick, the difference between Anthony Davis and Chris Paul, because I see a lot of casual Pelicans fans maybe here in Baton Rouge think that the fan base hates Chris Paul as much as they hate Anthony Davis, and it's not true, because exactly like Taylor broke down there, it's kind of the way that he left. That team was bad. Dell Demps is the worst general manager of a pro sports franchise that I have ever seen. I don't know how he kept the job that long, but it's the way AD did it, the way he tried to bully the Pelicans into trading him only to the Lakers, was telling teams he would not re-sign with them, wanted to go play with LeBron, tried to do it that season, and not the Pelicans' best interest, right? And, that's not even mentioning the T-shirts and the contradicting himself in interviews. It's just kind of the way he left and how he treated the franchise with very little respect. That's why fans are upset at Anthony Davis, not because he left. Fact that the pieces that the Pelicans got back ended up being pretty good, right? Brandon Ingram, who's been an all-star already, some draft picks, one of which turned into Trey Murphy. The Lakers won the championship, I guess, even though it's a Mickey Mouse ring and shouldn't be valid. They, I guess you could say, quote unquote, won the trade, but Brandon Ingram's still developing. Trey Murphy's still developing. That we're not going to know who really won this trade until a few years from now. But tonight would be maybe a good progress report, and it should be a really, really good, really entertaining matchup on TNT as well as True TV, Pelicans, and Lakers. Bally Sports cannot hurt us tonight. This game is not on Bally Sports. It is on national television. If the Pelicans win this game, I'm going to be very obnoxious tomorrow. We will 100% lead with the Pelicans beating the Lakers, so we'll see what happens over there in Las Vegas. All right, we'll come back and wrap up the show with some Ask the Bench. Get your questions in the Bayou Ford YouTube chat. Ask us anything about sports, anything about life. We will answer it for you on the other side. This is Off the Bench on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob.
All right, go to All-Star Toyota of BatonRouge.com, All-Star Toyota of BatonRouge.com. Whether you're buying new, if you're leasing, or if you're checking out that rental department that we tell you about every single day, just know that the full fleet is available in every single thing that we talk about with All-Star. So no matter what you're looking for, if you want a full-size SUV, you need it for your big crew. Well, they got the Sequoia. If you'd rather go to the minivan game, they've got the Sienna. But if you just want a midsize SUV, and also I tell you this, the midsize SUVs are bigger than you're probably thinking right now. Like for me, I've got a Highlander, and y'all know, look, we've got a huge family, but it works for us, right? We can check out the Highlander. We can check out the 4Runner, some different options there. So go see them today. Go see it for yourself. See what fits your needs, your family's needs. You know they got sedans. You know they got hybrids. They've got the trucks, the Tundra, the Tacoma, something for everybody, and all the processes that we talk about every single day. All-Star Toyota of BatonRouge.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
His name was King. He had a horse along the countryside. I saw him ride. One day they found him.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net. Elevate brand visibility, ignite customer engagement with the power of radio and digital advertising combined. Guarantee Digital Media brings the two together as a trusted media partner in Louisiana for nearly a century. Claim your free digital audit at guaranteemedia.com.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
I've been doing business with Loomis for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Hey, boat owners, check it out. It is the holiday season, which means it's time to buy yourself a gift by taking your boat to the next level with our friends at Front to Back Boat Service. Now is the perfect time to upgrade your boat and get it ready for that warmer weather, whether that's trolling motors, HD sonar, anything and everything. The Sherman family's been at it for 30 years, and Devin's going to take you through.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. I'm Wheels Up to New York City. Musso will drive you home. He'll have Mike Triplett and the latest in the transfer portal, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
OT with Hester and T-Bob on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 94.7 ESPN Alexandria.
Wrapping up the show with some Ask the Bench. Shout out to everybody for participating today. Viewership was good. Interaction was good. Really appreciate y'all. All right. Hashtag Ask the Bench. Favorite Pelicans/Hornets player. Grant just brought up some good names. I love Peja Stojakovic and David West. Those are probably my top two. What say y'all?
I always liked Bellinelli. We talked about that. You had some things about him. But, I mean, if it's not Chris Paul, I'll go Bellinelli. Emeka Okafor, I was always a big fan of as well.
Emeka Okafor. How about you, Grant?
Emeka Okafor is a nice one. I'd say David West, probably my favorite from that run of good teams we had in the late odds. And then I'd say Brandon Ingram from like this group. I love Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram. If I had to just say like pound for pound at this point, he's probably my favorite Pels player ever.
Hell yeah.
David West still like because I was young and like those teams were so great that there's still a little bit of charm there.
BI up there for me too. Very easy to root for. Being traded from the Lakers, having 3 coaches here. Like I feel like a lot of the fan base does not appreciate him enough. All right, hashtag Ask the Bench. Taylor from Shane. How is married life for you so far? Shout out to Victoria.
Married life's awesome. We didn't live together before we got married, so that was a little bit of an adjustment, but it's great. And, we were together 8 years before we got married. I mean, we started dating when I was 17 years old. So, I mean, we've been together now. February will be 10 years since we first started dating. So, obviously it wasn't a huge adjustment. Just living with somebody else in the house took a little bit, but man, it's awesome. We got our dog with us as well. So we got a house full of chaos, but it's awesome.
Hell yeah. Taylor enjoyed married life. Definitely still in the honeymoon stage, but looks like it's all to a really good start. So shout out Victoria and Taylor. Shout out Glock Never Jane in the YouTube chat who said Hilton Armstrong was his favorite Hornets Pelicans player. I had a Facebook memory yesterday. It was 15 years ago. Me and CP3 and Hilton Armstrong was sitting there chilling in the background. Current Warriors assistant coach. I'm sure he'll be a head coach in the NBA sometime soon. We'll see y'all tomorrow, 7 to 10 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob.
I want to remind you to go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app. You want to play that pontoon parlay. DraftKings Sportsbook app. Promo code Baton Rouge. NBA season's here. So you put in that promo code Baton Rouge your first time sign up, and you bet $5 on the NBA. You get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Y'all, that is the DraftKings Sportsbook app. And remember, if you're a returning customer, they got all kinds of great game day deals going down for you every single NFL game day. So join up with the boys on the pontoon parlay on DraftKings. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537. Must be 21 or older. Physically present in Louisiana. Select parishes only. Licensee partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.